Good evening, y'all. It is January 7th, 2025. We have officially passed the quarter century mark in the 21st century. Holy smokes, a century that I have experienced in its entirety, unlike my producer who is joining me this evening. AJ, how are you?
Hey, that's true, but I've experienced pretty much every day in this
Right.
century, millennia, whatever you want to divide it by.
I remember the day in 5th grade when I wrote for the first time the year 2000 at the top of a notebook. If you remember what a notebook is,
Yeah, I
at the
remember what a
top of a
notebook is.
notebook, writing the date at school, that was pretty crazy to me. Being like, wow, it's a whole new set of 4 digits, and I'm alive to see that happen. Even though dates are all a construct and it's based on a whole bunch of nonsense that doesn't matter. Anyway, welcome to Scouching Live. I, of course, am your host, Will Scouch. It's wonderful to be back for a brand new calendar year of the show. I appreciate the patience and waiting until tonight for the show tonight, but we've got a really, really good one going for you. We're going to be talking World Junior Championship, the good, the bad, the ugly. We're going to talk some really interesting players that we've seen in the last little while and sort of set the stage for what the next year is going to look like. Before we get into the show, again, I'm just going to go through the sponsors of the show. We, of course, are brought to you by Fanatics. You can use the affiliate link in the chat. I think it's going to show up. There it is. Or you can scan the QR code in the video window, and it provides a kickback on anything you buy in the store. We're also brought to you by PuckPrepsHockey.com, where you can get all your NCAA and CHL prospect needs. For anything you could need, we're going to have a lot more coming down the pipe as the OHL, WHL, and QMJHL seasons continue to, or the draft seasons, I should say, continue to evolve and everything as the year goes on, and lots more international tournaments coming up. And of course, you can go to scouching.ca, where a subscription will get you access to all kinds of really cool stuff. There's going to be more coming as well to the site. We're going to be updating all the visualization tools so you can take a look at the tracked data and some more data tables that I'm putting together that I just needed some more of a sample to put together. So yeah, we're going to be going through all of that. Wow. I'm a little rusty. It's been a few days. But yes, tons of exclusive prospect data, insights into the track data that I have that is paywalled at the top tier, as well as subscriber-only written content and plenty of other cool stuff you can check out over there. And we also have a merch store at scouchwear.com. You can check out and buy some stuff and buy a billion t-shirts so that we can give Elon Musk a run for his money. Well, I don't know, AJ. How was your holiday? I guess we'll start there, and then we'll dig into the hockey thing.
Do we want to start with my holiday?
I don't know. Do we? You tell me. Guess not, eh?
Some interesting things happened.
I
had to reset my PC because all my passwords got leaked.
Yes, AJ got hacked over the Christmas break, so that's a nice present you got.
So that's why things are taking longer than usual. So
yes, we have had to reboot the show a little bit production-wise. So
that's what happened to me during
that was a weird half a day.
Canada's pathetic win over Germany. That's when that happened, but
it was that. You could use that adjective. It was along those lines. But yes, a win is a win. That's what they say.
Luckily, I got all my accounts back. No money lost, only money gained.
Yes.
So we good.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. I'm very glad to hear that. Well, I guess we can get right into the story of the hour.
But what about your holidays quickly?
Yes. Well, my holidays were quite lovely. We had the Better Half's family here over Christmas, and then went to my family's place for Christmas dinner, which was a good old time. My mom loves to go hard for Christmas, and she had all of her little, I didn't know they did this, but she had all the little, they flew on a flight with KLM once, and they got all these little like Christmas village things, but it had booze in them. So she set all those up on the piano in their apartment in Toronto. So we had that. That was kind of fun. But anyway, I got to spend a week in the woods as well. Took the train out into the woods, and I don't know. I mean, it was a good time. Pretty relaxing. I try to really just watch a bunch of the World Juniors between Christmas and New Year's, and that's it. I don't really do any work. So it's nice to feel a little bit rejuvenated coming into
Well,
today.
you
Today was
don't really
technically
do
my
any
first day
work
back on the job.
anyways. Let's be
Right, that's
real.
true. I just copy everyone else's work and pretend it's mine. So yeah, sorry, I forgot about that.
Totally not what I did to get into this field by doing it to
Exactly.
you.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, so yeah, I mean, I also spent some time, watching some sort of off the beaten path stuff in my spare time. I watched there was an under 18 tournament around Christmas that I just caught up on a little bit. And um, I mean, not a whole lot else. Ate a lot. Went for a few walks. Oh, wait a minute. I went to Ottawa a bunch of times for a few World Junior games. So that was a lot of fun. I went to, for the record, my whole family, we went to the New Year's Eve game against the US, which was a hoot. Then drove back. The first thing I did after the strike of midnight in New Year's for 2025, I put my family's car in the ditch. So that was my first act.
Is that real?
That is real. I did do
You didn't
that.
even tell me.
I know, because I wanted to surprise you. But that
Oh,
was the first thing I did in 2025. It was around 12:20 in the morning, in the middle of the night, in the middle of nowhere in rural Ontario. I went about 2 kilometers an hour too fast in a car that didn't have snow tires when there was too much snow on the ground. We ended in the ditch, and everybody was fine. The car is fine. It was very minor. I did an excellent job ditching the thing, and we survived, and everything was fine. Um,
okay.
And then a couple of days later, went to Ottawa again. No car in the ditch this time, and went to see Kazakhstan get relegated to Germany, which we'll get to, which was also a lot of fun.
Mhm.
And then went to both semifinal games. Jordan Millette, Puck Prep's OHL scout, was very kind enough to let me tag along with his family to go to those games, and so I saw those 2 semifinal games, which was a really, really fun day. It was really, really great to have been there for that. That was a really, really great day.
Hell yeah.
So yeah, it was a good time. Got home yesterday morning or yesterday afternoon and ready to party. Put in a full day of track and work today. So ready to get back at her, and I'm excited to be back. It's gonna be a good time.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. So World Juniors. So baseline, AJ. We tried to have someone on to help offset the responsibility of breaking this down for us. But how much of the World Juniors did you see?
Some
Because
of
that
it.
didn't work out.
Some of it.
Okay. Like
But,
Canada mostly, or just like when you got the chance to tune
when I
in?
got the chance, when I was not dealing with being hacked.
Right. Yes, that would take up some time
that was
for sure.
kind
And
of
the after effects of such an event.
Yeah.
Right.
That's why I didn't do my job. Okay.
Right. Got it. Well, I mean, I think that's acceptable. You can't really just like not deal with being hacked. That's and
Yep.
I being a person who technically is your boss, it isn't a situation where AJ is using "I got hacked" as an excuse of like, oh my god, someone posted all this crazy stuff on my accounts. I swear it wasn't me, but it actually was, and definitely was, but it wasn't. It was actually AJ getting hacked, which is pretty wild, and he almost got me. It was a phishing thing or something, and it almost got me, and I thought it was weird, but I didn't do it, and so yeah. Don't click any fishy links, fellas and ladies.
Wasn't a link. It was a game, supposedly.
Right. It was like a file, right?
Yeah.
Or something like that. Yeah. Sketchy.
Because my buddy got it too. So my
Right.
buddy's account got hacked, and that's how this happened.
Right. And it just became chainmail.
And he had
in the
expressed
worst
interest
time.
in game development, so I'm like, oh, this might be.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me help him out.
Yeah.
No.
Nope. Did not help you out.
Nope.
No.
Nope.
Okay. So now
Let's
that
get
that's
into
out of the way, World Junior Hockey Championship. We'll kind of bookend this. We'll start with the overall result and go from the top down here. Obviously, the U.S. won the gold medal.
Our new overlords.
Our new overlord. Yeah, the 51st, the 11th province of Canada.
Trudeau stepped down, right? So
right.
This is to facilitate.
Yeah. I'm mixed up. I don't know what to think anymore. There's a lot of talk going on. I don't know if I'm Canadian or American or whatever. I don't know. But anyway, the U.S. Beat Finland in what I thought was an all-time gold medal game. I thought that was an awesome, awesome final game for that tournament.
It was excellent. I watched with some of our viewers in the chat.
Right. Yeah.
Had a really great time. Watched with a Finn. Watched with an American.
Yeah, we got quite the crew in there. There's quite a lot of representation from around the world in there. We're always looking for more. And yeah, I popped in there after the game. We had some fun, and yeah, it was There was jubilation from some and depression from others, and it was a good time.
But I think the most important thing, because, well, the U.S. won 4-3 in overtime. So this is the first time they've ever gone back-to-back.
It is.
But before the overtime happened, and Mr. Scott F. can attest to this, if he's in the chat, I said, if anybody's scoring this goal, it's gonna be Teddy Stiga. And god damn it, excuse me, to all you religious folks, I was right. Right.
Moses
knew
be
it.
praised. You got it.
First shot of the tournament, and he scored, man.
Yep. He, I mean, it was destiny, honestly. Sometimes things don't go my way, but once in a while they do, and that made me pretty happy.
And the best part is, Will got a message from somebody at the beginning of the tournament. So why don't you elaborate on that story? Don't have to give names, but
no, of course not. I'm not doing that. But I mean, it started as a joke, and it just kind of like fell apart because I'm a sensitive boy about my adopted children. But an NHL scout texted me when the U.S. played their first game, and they asked how I felt about Teddy Stiga being a healthy scratch for the U.S. national team, and I kind of went, well, I don't know, how am I supposed to feel? Like, I probably would play him, but like, whatever. I'm like, I guess, like, if you want a Brandon Svoboda playing in your bottom six, and then I see why. Like, I get it. If you think Stiga's like a top six or bust guy and there's no room for him, whatever, it's fine. And like, we kind of went back and forth a little bit about it for a while, and and then after the game, I texted him and I went, Teddy Stiga OT winner, or healthy scratch to OT winner, or something like that. And it just became this long discussion of why a guy like Stiga might be lower to people, and why I might be a little bit off base with that guy. But I don't know. With Teddy Stiga, that's a guy that I just will never bet against. I would love to have him on my team. NHL people that I talk to about him, they say the same thing. Like, you need guys like Stiga on your team to help you win. I thought he played really well. He didn't play a ton of minutes, and he only got one shot in the entire tournament, but he's a guy who I think is not really supposed to be the shooter on your team. Like, he kind of was a great forechecker for them. He was setting up plays below the goal line. He was doing a lot of things that Teddy Stiga has always done when I've seen him. And so that's why I love him so much. He does the hard stuff really well. And so, you know what? I really respected him for what he put together in that game. He had 2 assists going into that game with no shots on goal, which is very Teddy Stiga in a way. And that was pretty fun. I mean, I thought it was amazing that he scored, but I mean, honestly, as much as I love Teddy Stiga and as nice as that goal was, how about that pass from Zeev Buium? Holy God. That guy had a tournament.
Was getting an assist on it.
That guy can play hockey. That guy, I had him 5th on my list last year. I feel pretty good about that because, God, he was really good. And it was funny. I was with Jordan on the semifinal day, and we were watching the US and they played the Czechs, and we had great seats for that game. We were in the Bell Club on the lower bowl in Ottawa. It was awesome. Shout out Canadian Tire Center. I got their souvenir popcorn bucket. It's my new garbage can. This is my souvenir popcorn bucket. So I figured it made a good garbage can for down here, but shout out Canadian Tire Center. It was a good time. But his brother was there, and he leaned over, and we were watching Zeev Buium, and he goes, Canada didn't have a guy like that at all, right? Like, period. And I went, I mean, not really. Like, Tanner Molendyk maybe, but they weren't. Molendyk's not Zeev Buium, really. Like, I love Molendyk, but not. I mean, Buium was unbelievable. And just watching him play was such a joy. I thought he played excellently. He was on my personal all-star team. So on Scouching, we just posted our blog post for this World Juniors, so you can check that out. I just put it in the chat. He was on my all-star team for the tournament, but the other guy on that all-star team for me was Cole Hudson. I was blown away with Cole Hudson in this tournament. I mean, I thought that last season he was one of the fastest rising guys on my list last season, and towards the end of the year, he was relative to where he was early in the year, leaps and bounds beyond where he was at the start of the season, and that has carried over into this year. He's been having a really good freshman season, but his World Junior was spectacular. I really don't think Ryan Leonard does what he did without Cole Hudson starting those breakouts, getting play moving in the right direction, keeping the puck moving in the offensive zone. James Hagen's also factored into that a lot, but I mean, Cole Hudson was excellent. On that note, Ryan Leonard, obviously MVP of the tournament. I thought he was the most valuable player as well. Or no, I think I gave it to Cole Hudson. Yes. But Ryan Leonard, easy choice. I have no qualms about picking Ryan Leonard for that. He was just an excellent player all around for the Americans, like beating heart and soul of that team. And it exuded from the ice. Like, yeah, he may have been a little bit reckless with his penalties and a little bit emotional and whatever, but you know, he was competitive, he was aggressive, he was physical, but he got the job done. He finished really well. I thought he was really good in that tournament and deserved an MVP look. With regards to that gold medal, though, I mean, Finland was the team that got there. And in one sense, I was surprised, but also I said going in, like a lot of these teams were really even. Like I felt Canada had the stronger roster out of anybody, but the US, Finland, Czechs, and Swedes, and I think just those four, I felt were all really close. And really just flip a coin and anyone could have gotten through. And really at the end of the day, that's kind of what happened, right? Like they all kind of got there. You flip a coin, you know, the US. Well, yes, the U.S. beat Czechia pretty well 4-1, but it was a pretty close 4-1 game. And obviously Sweden and Finland, that game was amazing too. That game was amazing to see in person.
We
and
just can't beat Finland. It's their kryptonite. Like that's
yeah,
the thing I realized. It's crazy to me. It's just nuts. I
felt bad.
Like the bag. They fumble the bag every time.
And it's not like I could look at that and say they played poorly either. Like, I think that was just a great game that, you know, Finland just found a way to win. And I mean, I think you could make an argument that Sweden's goaltending was a bit of a weak point, but I think they overall deserved a better fate than they got. Mm-hmm. But the Czechs just really took it to them. The Finns just got a bounce go their way. I mean, it just is what it is, you know. Sometimes it just sucks to play hockey sometimes, and for the Swedes, unfortunately, it wasn't meant to be. I thought the Swedes had a good team. I thought the Finns had a good team too. They had a pretty balanced roster of strong guys and some good size on the roster. A really solid defense group. Maybe nobody who stuck out, but just solid players. But Petteri Rimpänen, I think, is the story of the Finnish team, though. I think he came out of kind of nowhere to be just dominant. I mean, I think I did where was it? He was
I had never heard of him before the tournament.
Yeah,
now I had heard of him. Forget about him.
Going into last year, I had kept up with him a little bit, but I didn't think he was gonna be this good. So in the gold medal game, he turned aside 36 of 40, which is crazy. In the semifinal, he turned away 43 of 46. He only faced fewer than 30 shots one time, and that was against Latvia. He managed to put aside 37 of 40 against Canada. So he was excellent no matter which way you slice it. He kept the Finns in that game. They faced some tough chances. I actually ran the math on this based on some data that I have access to. Finland, Finland's possession numbers weren't amazing. And they faced a quarter of the shot attempts against were coming from dangerous areas of the ice, which put them sixth in the tournament. So in terms of getting pucks away from the net, they weren't actually very good at it. So that makes Rimpänen's performance even better. So congrats to the Finns. I mean, it was a hell of a tournament for them. I thought just as a unit, they played really well. Consta Helenius, I thought, played really well, quarterbacking rushes and sort of playing with a bit of pace. I just thought that they looked really good. I'm a little bit, I don't know what the Finnish team is going to do next year, but the returning group is pretty good, right? Viti Miettinen, Aaron Kiviharju, Viti Väisänen. I thought Daniel Niemanen was pretty decent. Consta Helenius can come back maybe next year. Emil Hemming, Petteri Rimpänen can come back next year. So they should have a pretty good group. But I mean, the Helenka team this year and the under 18 games I've seen of Finland this year have not been amazing. So long term, I'm not sure how things are going to go there. But Definitely a strong sort of group of guys that might be back next year that could sort of keep the team going. The US, I want to say, yeah, next year you've got guys like Hudson probably coming back, Eiserman probably coming back, Connolly, Stiga, Logan Hensler, Brody Zemer, maybe James Haggins. We'll see, but that could be a guy who comes back. So they could have a pretty good team too. Again, the NTDP for this year, I would say, is a little bit weaker, but the one after that, yes.
So is James Haggins back at number 1 now?
Yes. Michael Misa, number 4. Easy. I was wrong.
No. He's number 2. He's number 2 by proxy of not being there.
Honestly, I've kind of resigned myself to the fact, like, I don't really know, but in a good way. Like, Haggins, if you want Haggins at 1, I get it. I totally get it. And I think he showcased a lot of why. But I do think that what's his name? Matthew Schaefer, when he played for Canada, was second to none. I think he was excellent. Obviously, the injury was a little bit reckless on his part, but he does that kind of thing. He goes to the net, he goes hard, he plays hard, he does that thing. But I thought he was excellent playing for Canada, and they did not look like the same team after he left. They just looked completely discombobulated without him. And I don't know, Porter Martone, you could make the argument he was in and out of the lineup for bad reasons, but at the end of the day, I didn't really notice him a whole lot when he was playing in those games. He was fine, I thought, but I didn't think he was as much of a needle mover as Schaefer was when he played, and Haggins for the Americans was definitely a leading player on that roster and won the gold medal doing it. But yeah, I thought, that it was a great final game. I really enjoyed that whole process for both teams to get there. But what were you going to throw in?
Well, I'll just give my quick thoughts on the stuff I saw.
Yeah.
I thought Ryan Leonard was insane anytime I saw him. Like, he looked way better than I remember him being. And he's going to be a pretty good player. It's funny because if we look at the Washington Capitals, who are, I believe, first in the Eastern Conference. I could be wrong, but they're definitely close to that if they are not already. And the tournament MVP is Ryan Leonard. Your tournament MVP is Cole Hudson. This team a dynasty, Will? What's going on?
Yeah. Future dynasty incoming. World Junior good players are automatically great NHLers one day. The Caps are never going to lose again once those guys are in the NHL. Confirmed. 100%. You know it. But I mean, they were great. They both were great.
I think it speaks to the fact that you can do the retool. That's what this is. Yes, they were not amazing, and they had a top 10 pick with Ryan Leonard. But this is what retooling is to me. Not getting rid of your main roster, figuring out how to change things around them. Now they're a team that's really good, and they've got really good young players coming up.
Yeah. Get rid of Kemper, bring in Dubois, get rid of a pick, bring in Sandin.
They brought in Mangiapane.
Mangiapane, he's been good. Yeah,
Dylan
just little bitty,
fit in there,
little teeny tiny little moves. Yeah, like little teeny tiny little things, and try things. And I mean, they're getting great goaltending. Logan Thompson seems to be a pretty good pickup for them too. They're doing the thing. It's going well for them, which is nice.
It is.
But yeah,
it's interesting. It's interesting to see that they're pulling it off, and they weren't all that bad for that long. So, and that's really it.
Yeah. All right. So, I guess we can talk about. Did you want to do the bronze for a bit and then get to Canada?
I think we should get to Canada sooner.
Okay.
Personally, I think we should get to Canada.
Yeah, I guess. The bronze medal game, it was just great. I did want to shout out Edward Shala, a guy who I'm a little bit skeptical of a lot of the time, but he was excellent. I thought in terms of just running that team and putting the team on his back. He had 5 of their 14 shootout attempts and scored obviously the game winner. And the Swedes just went home shattered, unfortunately, again after losing in overtime in the semifinals and then losing in the shootout. That just sucks. one bounce away from being in a gold medal game, and it just didn't get there. But we talked a bit about Sweden earlier. the Czechs, I mean, they're the Czechs. You can never, ever, ever, ever count out a bunch of Czechs in a hockey game these days. It's been a great run for them. What was it? It is the one thing the stat I did want to bring up. It is the third medal for the Czechs in a row, which they've also never done before. So that is an achievement in and of itself. The fact that they've won 3 straight medals of some kind at this tournament. So that's a rarity for a team to do that for the first time, obviously. So that's, good for them. Yeah. So Canada, oh boy. Okay. So, all right.
The time to capitulate. Is it time?
Yeah, it's time. We're done. America, come get us. Roll the tanks down, Queen Elizabeth way. Do what you need to do. Yeah, it's over. We've had our fun. 160 years. It's been a good time, but we're done. That's it. But no, I mean, look. So first things first.
You seem dumbfounded. You seem a little dumbfounded.
I'm just trying to think of how to put it. And it's something I've thought about for days. Because on one hand, part of me is going into the tournament, I could kind of see something like this being possible. But on the other side too, I'm sort of sitting there going, when you break things down a little bit, it should have gone a little better for them, all things considered. So before the tournament, and this is true any World Junior, it doesn't matter who's on the team. There's a lot of talk about players who were skipped over, and I think at first I was willing to give some level of benefit of the doubt. And with the players that were left off the team, I've seen a ton of them, and I'm kind of watching them, and I go, I can see why a team might not pick these guys right away. And the guys that they did bring, I could see the approach. Like, if America's bringing a Drew Fortescue and an Adam Kleber and a Colin Ralph, then Canada bringing some of those guys also kind of resonates in a similar way. And after the Latvia game, I mean, I don't know. Some people kind of really didn't like that I kind of was telling everyone to chill out a little bit. Yeah, it's an embarrassing loss, right? That's obvious, right? I'm not saying that. But it was game 2 of a 4-game preliminary round. And the hope, if I'm the coach, has to be, all right, that's the game where we go, this is for real. This is not a joke. A team like Latvia should not be pushing us around like that and grinding out a win like that, no matter who's in net for them, right? I mean, Leonard Feldbergs was unbelievable in this tournament. But in terms of the vibes, right? My whole thing would be, all right, we looked disjointed. We looked a little slow. Let's, PRACTICE, practice. Let's get moving. Let's get used to this. This is for real now. Now's our bottom end. That's our bottom end moment. And then they played Germany. And after that game, I kind of went, oh, I think they're in trouble. They are not getting, there's something that's not getting communicated there. It didn't look right. The Germans were a decent team. I saw them in person, right? I saw them beat Kazakhstan, but they almost lost to Kazakhstan. Kazakhstan scored as many goals on the Germans as the Canadians did. And so it's
which is embarrassing.
And watching that game, on one hand, yes, the Germans had a decent effort and their goaltending was pretty good, but the Canadians never looked like a dominant team. And that's generally what you would expect playing a team like Germany, with all due respect to the Germans in the chat. So then I kind of went, okay, now you're really under the gun here, because you've really got to find a way to get momentum to go into the playoffs, right? Because what the problem with the World Juniors is, if you screw around in the preliminary round, your quarterfinal opponent becomes exponentially tougher, right? If Canada had won that game against Latvia, it's entirely possible they're playing Switzerland and they're laughing their way to a medal game of some kind. But when you lose those games, it goes, okay, now instead of Switzerland, it's Slovakia, or instead of Slovakia, now it's the Czech Republic. And it's like, uh-oh, those are teams that, there's a boogeyman there from last year, and they are not a team that gives up. They're big, they're heavy, they're physical. They have a brand of play that really challenges a team like Canada. So I do think, I don't think you can blame the players. And I do think that in regards to the actual results on the page or on the ice, they did control a tremendous amount of possession when they were playing. They in the deserve to win-o-meter, not even close, right? But
Did Money Puck do a deserve to win a meter on those, or
no.
Okay.
But when I did go see them play the US, I went with my family. And for anyone who doesn't know, my family, without naming names and whatever, are not hockey fans. They tolerate that I watch it during the World Juniors. I think they're getting more interested in it now that they see the drama a little more, but they've never been to a game. And we went to the game together as a family, fun New Year's Eve thing. And my mother has not watched a hockey game, I don't think, in 25 years. And she leaned over to me multiple times through the game and went, "Will, why are Americans so much faster than the Canadians? What's going on with why does it look like Canada just started playing, hockey last week relative to what the Americans are doing? Why this? Why did Canada take that penalty? That was not a very
Why
smart
is that
decision."
guy named
Blah, blah, blah,
Colin
blah.
Ralph and then having a laugh?
Yeah. Well, I did that, and she laughed. But it was that kind of discussion, and I'm going, even my layman mother is picking up on these things that most hockey fans can see with their eyeballs and go, how did you not kind of foresee this maybe being a problem relative to what the US has done for the last 7 years with teams like this, where they're like the Logan Cooley, Jack Hughes, Cole Caulfield era, where this is what they do. And so that was very interesting to see that happen. And seeing that game, I kind of went, yeah, this team might not have the juice here. They just might not. The Americans just kind of controlled a lot of that game, and it didn't get much better.
This team felt like me when I'm in a state of not being confident. I go into my room, I overthink things, I don't actually do the things I need to do.
Right.
And then bad things happen because I'm negligent.
Yeah, and I think
the stream starting late. Sorry, everybody.
I think
I didn't
the interesting
practice hard enough, just like the Canadians. Right. Don't grill me. I saw the comment about bag skating.
I think the interesting thing about this specific incarnation of the team is you saw in real time the bad decisions because they made them public, right? The lines were always really weird. I don't know what you're doing with Oliver Bonk out there on the power play. I don't get that. I don't understand what the idea is by, it's kind of baffling, like going out in front of the media and being like, yeah, we canceled practice because the guys were tired. It's like, oh, we can't, you can't teach kids to be
that. I just don't believe that.
Exactly.
And Jeff Merrick put it best. It's like, these are 18, 19, and 17-year-olds. They're exhausted.
Yeah.
This is the time you have the most energy, especially when you're getting up for something like this.
Well,
to me, this just felt lazy. It felt
you're
like,
at home.
Yeah. It felt
you're
like
at home?
This team came up with all these excuses as to why they weren't going to win instead of just going out there and trying to win.
Do you have any idea how long the flight is from Almaty, Kazakhstan to Ottawa, Ontario, Canada? It's probably like 12 hours. Like,
no, it's more. It's got to be
probably more. Yeah,
because
like it's probably a disastrous grind for that team to come all the way to Canada. Like, you want to talk exhausted, a bunch of teenaged Kazakhs getting on a plane to a tournament that they probably know they're not going to win, and coming all this way. I don't know. I don't think that that's a reasonable thing, and let alone to say that to the public, right? Like, just put that out there. It's like, oh, the guys were just tired. Oh, we didn't practice because of this and this and this. And it's like, and what was it? The other thing that he said, oh, the discipline. It was like, he was asked about some bad penalties and some questionable emotional decisions and all of this stuff. Again, not uncommon to the Canadian World Junior team. And we'll get to why in a second, but it's not uncommon. This is, and no matter who's on the team, it seems to be the problem. And his response was to go, you can't do anything about that. The guys have to learn it themselves, and they have to teach each other and support each other and yada, yada, yada. And I'm just like, well, not even that,
No,
but
no,
like, what
no.
is your job then, right? Like, you don't want to run practice, so you don't think they need to practice, which you run. You don't think you can teach them about how to be more disciplined, which your job as a coach for especially teenagers, like they're kids, man. Like, you kind of have to be a little bit hands-on and sort of guide them and go, hey, let's keep things in perspective here, and like, let's not, whatever, right? Like, Canada was, I believe, the most penalized. I put it in the recap. Canada spent, I think, according to the IIHF game sheets, an average of 8.5 minutes shorthanded every game. I
That's
think
just ridiculous.
that's just unbelievable. I think I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure.
You know why
And
I bet that is? Because they were
bunch
chasing the
of-
game the whole time.
They were.
Weren't
They
playing
were.
with pace. They weren't being aggressive. Like, who was Canada's best player other than Matthew Schaefer?
Yeah, I know.
Catton?
I thought Berkeley Catton was really
I thought he
good.
looked
Gavin
good.
McKenna had his moments. I thought he was pretty good.
Yeah, that's true.
I
I like Cal
Chenko,
Ritchie,
I
but
thought,
I
had
don't
some
think he
okay
did
moments.
much.
Ritchie wasn't really much of a factor. Easton Cowan. I thought Easton Cowan, I'll say this. I thought Easton Cowan was Easton Cowan, but I think he needed Dave Cameron to get to his level and be like, I love the energy. You are an emotional guy. Turn it down 5%. Like, I thought Easton Cowan was making smarter plays than most of his teammates. He was moving the puck better than most of his teammates. He just had some really bad moments that everyone is focusing on. But I bet if you go and watch Easton Cowan's tape from that tournament, he was making a lot of really solid plays throughout that tournament, I thought. But at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. Like, I think the next highest team in terms of times shorthanded per game was 7 minutes and 14 seconds. I think Canada was like 8 minutes and I want to say 20, 25 seconds, something like that. Like, it's just not even close. And the next highest penalized team after the preliminary round, I think, was Kazakhstan. So it's like it wasn't even close. Someone mentions Braden Yeager. I thought he played pretty well as well. That's another one too. But it is, I think, again, 0% am I saying these kids are awful and they deserved to lose and blah, blah, blah. That's not the case. But I do think it is an extreme version of an indicator of something we've been saying on this show since it started, which is that, like, Canada and the institutions of hockey in Canada are kind of broken and, like, not really in sync. And, there's a lot of confusion. There's a lot of politics. There's a lot of nepotism and a lot of these things that come to the surface with sort of these really sort of galaxy brain thinking. How can we construct the best hockey team out of the plethora of talent that Canada has to offer? And my retort to that is those days are over. Like,
here's one of the things I just want to jump in. Sorry to interrupt you, Will.
No, it's fine.
But one of the great points that was being talked about on Daily Faceoff's show, The Sheet, with Jeff Merrick.
Yep.
I'm a big Jeff Merrick stan. I love him, okay? So I'm going to reference Jeff Merrick. I'm going to reference Elliot Friedman a lot in these shows. And he was on with Stephen Ellis. Nice guest of the show. Frequent guest of the show.
Yes, friend of the show.
Yes. And Jeff Merrick brought up the point, what happened in 2010? What'd they do in 2010 in the at the Olympics? They brought a top 12 because skill can grit, but grit cannot skill. And you just bring the best players and you make it work. What the hell is this BS about bringing a team that has roles, okay? Bring your best players. They can fill those roles. They just don't have to do it on a normal basis on their actual CHL teams, NCAA teams, wherever they're from. Bring your best players. Don't be stupid.
Well,
why are you handicapping yourself? Yes, you gonna bring up Andrew Gibson?
I was gonna say Andrew Gibson was on their top pair largely. He played well over 20 minutes many times.
But why?
I don't know.
Because
on the team that won the tournament, they had Cole Hudson or Zeev Bouillon out there for almost every other shift, right? And Canada was throwing out guys like Oliver Bonk and Andrew Gibson, and I thought Sam Dickinson had a really tough tournament. I don't know what was going on there, but he was having a tough one.
And the system isn't good. Sam Dickinson can struggle.
I think that's a bit of the case, right? And that's nothing against Sam Dickinson because I've seen him be a good player. He's been quite good for London this year relative to what he was last year. So I get, like, I look at that and I go, and I was talking to Jordan about this at the game. I was like, imagine Finland left Jesse Kiskinen at home because they're like, we're not sure about like how much he'll deal with Canada's physicality and intensity. Like, I don't know. It's like, what do you mean you're not going to bring Jesse Kiskinen, right? Like, I don't even really think much of that player as an NHL prospect, but he was good for that team. Like, he wasn't perfect, but he was extremely valuable at the end of the day. He scored goals. He did the thing. He was pretty good. And so for Canada, it's like, I said this
Michael
earlier.
Misa. This guy literally learned how to penalty kill.
Even to camp, right? Just give him a go.
I put in the question on game tape for him specifically about the World Juniors. And, like, he didn't say this outright, but based on his answer, the impression I got was, I learned how to penalty kill, do all these things, in part because I want to be on this team.
Yeah. And
they shafted him.
Based on what I've seen of Michael Misa this year, I went into the season a little bit down on him from last year. I'm a truther now. That guy is an exceptional hockey player. And he should have at least been in camp. That to me was crazy. Michael Hage not being in camp was crazy. Even giving a Zane Parekh, based on what I've seen of him this year, not even, he was there kind of, but like they definitely didn't want anything to do with him. They kind of anyway, at the end of the day, I think it's you can him and haw about the players all you want, right? Like whatever. And I think the usage of the players they brought was a bigger issue, but the really big issue is the sort of more systemic thing going on here, right? And think about it this way, right? Like here's how I posit it. Well, that, but also think about it logically with regards to where these players are coming from in this tournament, right? The U.S. has a natural advantage because these guys have played together since they were 16. A lot of them were on the NTDP together, and they played together for quite a few years. And now they're back playing with the old buddies and they're having a great time. This is just how it is for them. We don't have that in Canada. Instead, we have 60 teams spreading out all of this talent in the country. So the floor is pretty low and the ceiling is extremely high. Like, I think that's how you have guys like Beckett Seneca scoring 22 points in 8 games. Because at this level, you can do things like that. That doesn't always mean that the player is astoundingly talented and a future Hall of Famer. But it does mean that there's a lot of breadth of talent in that league so that one of them can go out and score 3 points in a few different games. So, so when these players are brought off of these junior teams and put onto this all-star team, ideally of Canadian junior players, they're going to a tournament in international hockey where, number one, they call the rule book. So in North America, oftentimes they're more game management. They're more game managers, but in the international hockey world, they call things. They do not care. They'll call a bunch of stuff that most people in North America go, wait, what? Well, how are you calling a penalty with 2 minutes left in the game? What are you doing? They'll do it. They don't care.
It should be. I like that.
Yes,
I like that. I like
that.
I think a lot of people don't, but I love it.
The U.S. didn't have a problem. The U.S. were one of the least penalized teams in the tournament, and I think they were the team that spent the most time on the power play.
Because they had the puck the whole time.
Right, but the point is, like, it's not just a matter of, like, oh, the refs are targeting. Like, it's a matter of, like, the Canadian culture of hockey not being in resonance with how the international game is called a lot of the time. And the Americans have plenty of international experience. They've done it for years. In like 4 Nations tournaments, 5 Nation tournaments, the under 18s, they have that experience. But the other thing I wanted to mention was when you take all of these Canadians, put them on this team, go to the World Juniors, and put them in the World Juniors, and they are going from an easier level of competition, right? That CHL level to the World Juniors, where it's the best that every other country has to offer. And so they're kind of moving up a level, right? There's not as many players. There's way fewer teams. Yes, maybe Kazakhstan and Latvia, they're not as good, whatever. Fine. Well, Latvia won. But on the other side of the equation, though, let's say Germany, Sweden, Finland, Czechia.
Even some U.S. players.
Yeah, some U.S. players, but like Slovakia as well. Those guys they have been or are all playing professional hockey at the men's level for at least this season, if not longer, right? Or at least have some level of experience of what that intensity level is like, right? The Swiss leagues are really good. The Swedish leagues are great.
That's a meme at this point. You saying the Swiss league is really good.
It is. And the German league is pretty good. Like the German Pro League is pretty good. And a lot of those German players came from the German Pro League. So they at least know that at that level, you gotta have your feet moving all the time. And you cannot really be a lazy forechecker. You cannot really sort of take the foot off the gas pedal. You just always are pushing things up the ice. You're just pushing, and that's just the game. There's no push and pull really. I mean, there is, but what I'm saying is like professional competition is a very different story from the CHL. So Canada almost is like right now working from behind the 8 ball by going from a lot of CHL players to the best of all of these kids who have been playing professional hockey for a while. You know, Anton Wahlberg has been in the AHL, right? Konsta has been in the AHL. Like all these guys are playing at a level that the Canadian players don't even have the option of playing in unless they're from the NHL, you know? And that's been a disadvantage for Canadians forever. Whereas in Europe, you might be 16 years old in the Czech Republic and Adam Banak is suiting up for your pro team. And then you sort of see what that's like if you're Adam Banak at 16. And I think that gives you a natural advantage of going, okay, this is what a 30-year-old man who's playing hockey for a paycheck plays hockey like. I am not like that yet. I need to play a certain way. And you get that experience at 16 when, if you're playing for the Oshawa Generals, you won't get that experience until you're 3 or 4 years older. Mm-hmm. So that is a difference that I think is a bit of an issue.
So there's a question that came in that I think is relevant to what we're talking about now.
Yeah.
About the CHL being such a weak link. How has Canada ever won? Competition's just gotten better.
Yeah, 100%.
And it's not that it's a completely debilitating thing, right? Like this isn't the end all be all, but it's just like the level of competition increases at the World Juniors for the guys, for most of the guys coming out of Canada, and it hadn't previously.
It's what closes the gap a little more than you'd think. I think that's all it is, right? Like it makes those games more competitive, right? It's not necessarily that Canada is automatically worse, but it is not uncommon for Canada to go into this tournament and have a real stinker of a game and then win. Like that's why I wasn't freaking out after Latvia. Like there have been games where they come really close to some really not ideal finishes and they pull it off, right? They'll grind a game into overtime. They'll grind a game into a shootout. They'll come back from 2 goals down and 5 minutes left, like the Jordan Eberle thing, right? That was a heroic Canadian heritage moment, but that is only because Canada was losing that game.
And I think if we have to rank stuff in terms of order of importance, I feel like play style goes at the number 1. Really, like to me,
it is
that's
a big
how
factor.
I feel about it. I feel like this team does the way Hockey Canada operates. They don't play with the same level of pace as the U.S. and they're behind the 8 ball. And because of that, because they're chasing the puck, they're taking more penalties because they don't have it.
Yeah.
So I think there is a bit of a correlation with that.
And the other thing on that note, because we're talking about it, if you go back to the time when, like, imagine Russia were in this tournament, right? That's an even harder team to put in the ring with Canada. But before Russia was expelled from these levels of tournament play, Canada won in 2020, but lost in the quarterfinals in 2019. They medaled 2 years after that, but then a quarterfinal loss. They won in 2015, then lost 2 straight bronze medal games in 14 and 13, won a bronze medal, and then before that was their insane run of golds and silvers, and that was until 2011. So the 2010s for Canada, with Russia involved, were not dominant. They were medalless 4 times in that decade. So it's not, Canada was dominant when I was a kid and a teenager and everything. But now the floor has just come up quite a bit and it's a lot more competitive. And now I think what we're seeing is Canada being a sort of team where you're going like I think this is a bit of a one-off season too. I will say that too, where they scored 10 goals this whole tournament in the preliminary round. They have never done that before. Like at least since I've been alive. I'm looking at their year by year. They had 13 goals in 2016, lost in the quarterfinal. 10 is ridiculous. So I don't know. I think it's a matter of other countries really closing a lot of that gap because there has been really smart, concentrated attitudes to close that gap, especially from the U.S.
And I feel like there is this level of arrogance with Canada.
Oh, absolutely.
We are the best at this. This is our thing.
Yeah.
Nobody else is better. Like, I was watching the game, the U.S.-Canada game at my cousin's place because he happens to be born on the 31st of December. And our whole family just expected Canada to win. I'm like, no.
Right.
No.
No.
They're going to lose. They're going to lose.
Well,
and
it's going to be competitive.
Right. No, it was against the U.S. I was very confident they were going to lose after losing to Latvia. And they did.
Right. Yeah.
They did. Because they're not fast. And they chase the puck. And they take dumb penalties because they don't have the puck the same amount.
Right.
So I think we've got to get out of this idea that we are the best at this. Teams or other nations have caught up, okay? Canada is not special anymore. They're still a really great hockey nation, but we are very good. We are not the special ones anymore. We can't just expect medals.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's I don't know. It's
I also feel like that plays into this whole down attitude about this team.
Yeah.
Like that, because we just expect to win every year, that this team just kept getting badgered and badgered. And yeah, they didn't help themselves. They kept digging the hole.
Yeah.
But we can't expect to win always. That being said, I think Canada's going to win next year if they take the right team.
Well, that's the thing.
They
Canada
win next year.
Well, they should. I think that's the other thing too. I just want to reiterate before we move on from this. I think they deserved a better fate. The numbers don't lie. I think should have scored more than they did. They got some insane. You never know, right? It's hard to say, but with a few the decisions that they made sometimes, obviously not helpful penalty wise. The lineup decisions not helpful. The coaching and management of the team not ideal. But through it all, I think that they basically had everything just not go their way at all. And I think there was a chance that they pulled something out of their hat and tried to get through this. Like that Czechia game, Michael Robel was really good. He was really good. He was really good.
It wasn't
and well, yeah, exactly. And he was really good right up to the gold medal game, right? And like Carter George was spectacular too, though. So, can you really use that as like an excuse? I don't know, because I thought Carter George was excellent. So again, it's not a matter of the players. I still think that team deserved a better fate, but the one that they got was also kind of deserved. And and I guess in a way it's like not deserved because the players were bad. Again, I don't want to say that, but deserved because of the structure that allowed it to happen, and the whole, like, I still cannot believe some of the things that Dave Cameron was saying to the public. Like, what are you doing, man? Like, come on. But anyway,
not coaching Canada next.
Yeah. I mean,
not to be harsh, but I think we all know that's not going to happen.
Oh, there's no way he's coaching Team Canada next year. But Canada, when you look at the numbers, especially defensively, they were the best team in the tournament in the games they played. 9% of shot attempts against them were from the slot area in front of the net. The next lowest was 13%, and that was Sweden. Like, they were doing things right in a lot of ways, but it just wasn't enough on the other side of the puck. Like, offensively, it just was not enough. They were playing, every set of downs was a field goal. Like, that's kind of what it felt like.
They played Canadian football with 3 downs instead of 4 and screwed themselves. So,
The way I explained it, kind of, in my opinion, to my family was like, it's like they registered for a car race and put a Honda Civic in the race. It's like you're gonna finish the race. Like it's not gonna conk out on you halfway. It's not a Alfa Romeo. Like it's not gonna break on you. It's gonna get you to the end, and you probably will be able to race that car a few different times. But everyone else is building like race cars. They might break down, like their race cars might, blow a gasket or something along the way, but you still probably want a race car, and it's just that like it's that sort of deliberate withholding of potential in favor of avoiding risk in a way. Like it's avoiding this like perceived risk with some of these players, right? Like again, before the tournament, I was willing to give them the benefit of the doubt. But after seeing what they did put on the ice, I'm kind of going, well, I have my reservations about a guy like Zane Parekh or something, but he would have been a huge boost to that team. Or, Michael Misa would have been a really nice boost to that team. Hell, imagine this is me just being me, right? I'm just going to throw this out there, and you might maybe know where I'm coming from. But what if both Misa brothers were on this team?
yes.
Right? Like Luke Misa is the speedy, forechecking, intense playmaking winger that I kind of think they really needed. Like
Imagine
they
if
just
they
kind of
actually played the entire Brampton Steelheads line together.
Raykop, Martone, Misa. Like
They
I
didn't
don't
even
know.
play Raykov and Martone
No.
together. They just scratched one.
Yeah, which is bananas to me. It's crazy, and I don't really get it. I mean, I'm not the biggest Raykop guy, but he was pretty good. I thought he was pretty solid when he played.
And there's a question about like you giving the MVP to players that you're skeptical on. Will skeptical on them in the NHL, not in junior.
Their performance here could still be excellent. Like I'm not disputing that at all.
Same reason you brought up that Kiskinen is like not your favorite player as an NHL prospect, but as a guy who could score goals against junior level competition. Absolutely,
he was very good. Like we're talking about the tournament here, right? Like in this turn, like Edward Shala, I've seen him in the AHL a bunch this year. I don't know what his role is going to be in the NHL, but when he comes back to this tournament, I'm going, I mean, yeah, he's going to find a way to take advantage of opponents and score points and do the thing. And he was a hero for the Czechs this year. He was clutch. So anyway, it's neither here nor there. At the end of the day, Canada, I don't think it's right to just pile on the team as if there's some horrific disappointment. But
we're not giving them a free pass like Ron McLean.
It does
though.
Well, Ron McLean, man, whoa, my God, we're not fans of Ron McLean here anymore.
That's
at least
not true. I like Ron McLean. It's just
I love Canadian treasure, but it is time. His time has come. I think his time has come. That's just. I think he just didn't read the room very well at all on that.
I just think he was trying to be positive towards the players because they're probably watching. But
yeah, and the players, I think the players are getting
and that
they're getting a really.
They knew it was going to be tough if they lost. That's what he said.
Yes,
I think it's I think it's a little bit lame, but I understand where he's coming from. But I'm still going to laugh at it. Okay.
I mean, I feel really bad. I do feel really bad for the players. Like that's not something that that's a big stage, and they clearly were not guided through it very well.
Nope.
And that's unfortunate. Like it just did not seem like they were having too much fun. It just the vibes were off, and that's really disappointing because I've seen I've seen what Canada's capable of at this tournament. Like they're capable of magic. So it's disappointing in a sad way, not in an angry way for me.
All right.
And at the end of the day,
I think it's time to move on.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think we need to move on.
I just want to hit a couple of things here.
Yes.
So, was Will harsh on Axel Sandin Pellikka when he put out his video room? Because this is something that came up.
Oh, boy.
People were commenting on that video.
It was the worst game of the season for him.
And I think we kind of addressed it, but I want to address it fully here. Because I think, A, it's funny.
Yes, it is.
And B, it's important that we give people perspective. And I'm going to speak for Will because I feel like it. this instance. How does that sound?
Try me.
He played against lower level competition than he normally does. Of course he's going to look like a god, all right? And he looks good in the SHL. Nobody's saying he's a bad player. We think he's going to be very good, okay? He's going to be he's going to be the power play guy of the future. Top 4 defenseman, slotting in under the Sider Edvinsson pair if that's what they decide to do. Which I think is what they're doing for the most part. He's going to be good. He's going to be good, okay?
Yeah.
But he should be this good. He should be this good. Don't act like,
he's an offensive defenseman, like, who is really good offensively.
And I'll let Will speak.
At least, well, I mean, with Sandin Pellikka, like, I saw him live twice. I thought he was very good. I think the Swedes were a team that sort of won by committee. I think that was a team that really worked well as a unit. I thought Otto Stenberg, Anton Wahlberg, David Edstrom, Felix Nilsson, Zeb Forsfjall, Herman Truff were really good. I mean, I looked at both Tom Wilander and Axel Sandin Pellikka together, and I went, those guys worked off of each other spectacularly well. Like, I thought those guys played off each other they played off of each other's strengths really, really well. They played off of each other I mean, I thought Tom Wilander moved the puck extremely well. Sandin Pellikka passed the puck really well. But Sandin Pellikka in the offensive zone, it was just really, really impressive seeing what he did. I have always been quite positive about Sandin Pellikka. The whole point of that video we did was my coming out the other side of that. I was going, I'll be very interested to see how this works in the NHL. I think he'll find a role. He'll find something to do, right? But and I think as a mid-first round draft pick, being like a middle pair defenseman that has some power play ability in the NHL is pretty fair value. I think that's a fair spot for a player like that to land in the NHL, right? I don't think he's like an elite top pair, 200-foot, elite Victor Hedman style defenseman, but I think he's quite good. Like, he was really good in this tournament as expected. But they had a really good unit that just worked really, really well together. They got him the puck in the offensive zone plenty. Victor Eklund was unreal, I thought, for Sweden. I thought he was really, really good. So, yeah, it's a matter of perspective. It's a matter of, like, really understanding the sort of context that I'm putting in these situations, right? Where it's like, yeah, I mean, there are things that are happening here that I like. There are things that I'm still a little skeptical of. But, this is a process. It's not like it's not I think he is good or bad, therefore he's always going to be good or bad thing. Like, that's not the point of any of this. But yeah, I mean, he was my MVP of the team for them. But I really honestly felt like like 4 names, maybe 3-4 names crossed my mind for that. But I thought he was really good. Yeah, I don't know. He was solid.
All right, next point.
Okay.
Anything you want to say about the World Juniors? Like, anything else you want to get off your chest?
The relegation game is the most underrated thing in that tournament by a long shot. That game, I paid $30 and I sat second row in the corner. And I was on TV a few times, which was really fun.
I didn't see you on TV.
Yeah, I was the lady of the house, she spotted me because if you're not familiar, if you didn't watch it, I forgive you. Kazakhstan played Germany. Kazakhstan won up 3-1, and they definitely didn't deserve to be up 3-1, but they found a way. They were there, and the Germans were really trying hard to claw their way back. The only thing that the Germans got on their side to help them get through that was Kazakhstan taking some real dumb penalties, and
I heard this before.
And their penalty kill exposed just how slow that team was, because they scored Germans scored 3 power play goals to win the game, and they won the game like in the ending minutes of the game because of a really dumb penalty that happened directly in front of me. And on TV,
I heard this before.
If you go and look at the highlights, you might be able to see it. But I was sitting like right behind Asanali Sarkinov when I think it was a trip or a cross check or something, pulls the guy over. Not even close. It was a penalty. And I just go, oh no. Like, my hands fly up, and right on the head, and I'm going, oh God.
Were you on the
And
TSN replay?
I knew it was, I don't know, I haven't looked, but I knew it was over at that point. I just went, yeah, Germany's not losing this game.
I'm going to try and find this clip.
Yeah.
And get it for next stream if it exists.
Sure.
And if it does, then we'll turn it into something memeable for this channel.
Yep. The bizarre thing was they didn't pull their goalie. Kazakhstan in the tournament, it felt like, just refused to pull Vladimir Nikitin. Like, he would
he's the best player.
Right, but you're losing.
I know.
He came out like he was in that game. I was sitting in Kazakhstan's end for the first and third period. They were losing 4-3 with like 2 minutes, maybe 90 seconds left in the game. The play was way off in Germany's end, right? Like, not even close to him. Nikitin was halfway out of his net to the bench. He was halfway there, and he was going like this, like to his coach, like, am I going or what? Like, what's going on? Like, what's happening here? Then the puck would sort of come his way a little bit. He'd have to go back into the net. It would get dumped in. He'd corral it, and then he'd skate right back out halfway to the blue line and go. And you could see him. He was like shaking his head. He was like, okay, I guess I'm staying out. And then they pulled him with like 18 seconds left. And I'm going, all right, like, I don't know what's going on there. Like, I don't know. A little bit. Yeah. It's like, are you so scared of giving up a goal and definitely losing the game that you're just going to lose? Like, okay, fair enough, you know, whatever. But if Kazakhstan had won that game, it would have been a shock because I did not think that team was going to win any games, let alone push Slovakia to overtime. And they were just a fun team to watch. The fans were behind them the whole way. The relegation game is huge because you literally don't get to come back. Like, the next time Kazakhstan can play in this tournament is 2027. So those teams want to win that game. Both teams really showed up. Right. So it's a big game for those teams. They're always really, really fun. And I thought it was a great $30 well spent. Maybe I wouldn't sit 2 rows back next time because I'm not a huge fan of sitting that close to the boards, but really good game to go to. And I highly recommend checking those games out in the future because they're always a hoot.
Any other last thoughts about the World Juniors?
I mean, I'm sure there are questions in the chat, but I mean, I shouted out Leonards Feldbergs because he was unbelievable. Yeah, I think that's about it. I mean, I think
it's time for the main event. Fabian Lysell played a game in the NHL, and yes, it happened during the break, but we're gonna talk about it because it matters to me, damn it. It matters to me.
We're doing this for AJ.
So, and we're doing this for you because I'm sure you guys want to hear.
That's true.
We want to see me go down this rabbit hole even further. I'm already down the rabbit hole, okay?
Big time.
And I'm ready to embark on this journey more. So I'm gonna start because this is my boy. He did nothing wrong. He was the best player on the ice. Basically set up the first goal himself and didn't get a point for it. Had me believing that he did score a point for a second because the NHL credited him with a goddamn point.
They did.
Because he basically made that play. Now,
they did. Yeah,
I'm going to get rid of the hyperbole. He wasn't actually the best player on the ice in that game, but he was excellent. And I thought he played a really, really good game.
Yeah, I mean, so before the show, I went and watched his game against Columbus that he played. And yeah, I mean, I thought he did not look out of place as an NHL player. There were some instances where I'm going, yeah, like he's the type of player where if he doesn't, he's like Brady Berard in a way, or Brett Berard, the one with the Rangers. That's Brett, right?
Yes.
He's kind of stuck. He's been doing well. I think the thing about a guy like those guys, they're a little small, but their game works best as long as they're moving. Like if they're stationary, it just doesn't work as well at the NHL level for guys like that. So with Lysell, a lot of it was if he was a little flat-footed on defensive rushes, he wasn't really much of a factor. If he was stationary in the defensive zone and received a pass, it took him a little bit too long to make a read, make a pass or whatever, and he would cough up the puck a little bit here and there. But outside of that, I thought he was pretty darn good. Like in terms of forechecking ability, gaining body positioning, winning races to pucks, setting up play in the middle of the ice. Like he had a few slot passes in that game.
Yes.
He was getting into the middle of the ice here and there. He was bumping and grinding as much as he needed to.
Drink the Kool-Aid.
He was good. Like he was good. And compared to some of the other guys that were on the ice, you know, I mean, I feel like he was a player, and I said this to AJ, like I felt like he was a player where if you gave him 20 games in the NHL, I feel like he would just get better and better and better. If you really put him in a role where you're going, yep, you can play on our third line, give some offensive pop to some grinding guys and just play fast and get body positioning and forecheck well and do all that stuff, I think there would be results.
Yep.
So to see him sent back down to the minors is a little disappointing, but I thought it was really promising. You know, I think it was a really nice thing that they did for him for Christmas. You know, he had a 3-point night. Come on up for Christmas. His family was there. His family was in town. Super nice.
They brought him up just for that. And
you know,
also
I don't
they
know.
got killed by Columbus the night previous, and they felt like they had to change things up.
I don't know if he's like the answer to their offensive problems, but he is what they need. Like he is a type of player that Boston, I think, could really use. That more offensive leaning bump and grind speedy guy who can, you know, really get deep in the offensive zone, forecheck well, you know, throw the puck out in front, you know, just do that kind of thing. And I don't know, I'm sure we'll see him at some point before the end of the season.
So two things.
But, you know, whatever.
Two things. When they called him up, like after they sent him down, Joe Sacco, funny I have to say that name. It's so close to Joe Sakic that I feel like it's wrong. Like I feel like I'm getting it wrong every time. But that aside,
correct.
He said that he felt he played really well and that this call-up doesn't hurt his chances of playing again, which is good.
Right.
Because they rewarded him, brought him in, his family was there, so the timing was all right to get him in and reward him.
I feel like that shouldn't be a thing anyway.
Like
imagine he played one game and he was, imagine they played one game and they're like, well, he didn't play like a guy that we're ever going to call up again. So that's it.
Well, but he was very positive about him. He said he played very well.
Yeah.
Said he played very well. So that leads into my next point. Boston Bruins are currently playing in a game right now against the Edmonton Oilers, and they've played 4 other games since then. So total of 5 games, 1 ongoing. What do you think their record is?
Have they lost every game?
They've lost every game, and they're going to lose this one too.
Right.
Call him up, goddammit. Call him up. This is so stupid. I'm losing my mind, okay? I'm losing my mind. Why? The one game you win, you lose. What was it? They lost 6-0 to Columbus the night prior? Or 6-2. They call him up, they win 4-0. They send him down. They've lost every single game. Like, come on. Why do I have to yell this? Why do I have to be like this? Why do I have to be in such suffering and agony? This is worse than getting hacked. It is. It's not. But it is, okay? For the sake of hyperbole, it is. Just for me to get across my point. And I promise, ladies and gentlemen, I will be on camera to do these rants in the future. Because I got an Amazon gift card for Christmas, and that's what I'm going to spend it on. So,
sick.
Listen, I want this guy to play because they win when he's in the lineup. It's 100%, like 100% win rate, and without him since 100% losing rate. So he has to be in the lineup. He has to be in the lineup. They're
never going to win again if they don't.
No, put him in the lineup. Never going to win again. Call him up.
It's a tragedy.
Please.
Oh my God. Yeah, but he was good. He was good. You know, it was a promising start, and so hopefully it's the first of many. I don't know. We'll see what happens, but he was good. Solid performance.
They better call him up soon because they're playing the Lightning twice and the Panthers, as well as the Senators, who are in a I think they're just outside of a playoff spot.
They're pushing them.
Because the Habs have taken the playoff spot. Congratulations, Habs fans. That's something I thought I'd be saying.
That's wild.
But I think that's going to conclude our scripted segment.
Oh, I thought you meant their winning streak was going to conclude, and I was like, "Whoa, okay."
No. Not making those predictions.
Like their run, the Montreal run is going to going to conclude. You're right. I think that will conclude.
I mean, it'll probably conclude soon, but that's besides the point.
I mean, likely, yes. It's more, likelihood is
they're never going to lose again. I'm
No.
gonna die, and they're still gonna be on a winning streak.
Sweet. Can't wait. Well, not can't wait for you. I can wait for you to die, but I can't wait for that day. Anyway, whatever. Let's not.
Don't worry.
Let's
It's
stop.
okay.
Let's stop that.
I know where you were going with it. I know you were
let's
going with it.
switch.
It's okay.
We'll switch gears. We'll get into the
It's time
the
for
ad reads.
you, the beautiful
Yeah.
people, as soon as we are done this ad read.
Yeah.
So, Will, take it
Yeah.
away and
Yeah.
get into it.
Yeah, so you can help out the show. You can check out our Fanatics link. It is in the chat now. You'll give us a kickback on anything you buy in the store. So that would be lovely for you to utilize if you're looking to buy something maybe with some Christmas money that your Graham gave you. We're also brought to you by Puck Preps, where you can get all your NCAA and CHL prospect needs. We got lots and lots coming down the pipe between now and the end of the year. Lots of OHL players flying around these days with the trade deadline coming. WHL guys flying around. So if you want any information on any of that stuff, the best place to go is Puck Preps. As well, you can also support us with a subscription to Scouching.ca, where you will get plenty of access to cool prospect data, insights, as well as drafted prospects, players entering the draft this year, insights into the track data that I have that's proprietary with subscriber-only written content, and plenty of other really cool perks you can check out over at Scouching.ca.
Yeah, and there's a Discord server that I'm in, very active in. Will's also very active in, and some nights I just chill out in there and watch hockey. That's what I'm going to do actually tonight with somebody as well.
All right.
Rayan,
our graphic designer, after he's done playing Marvel Rivals for the last 3 straight days, probably.
Watching the Oilers beat the Boston Bruins too.
I didn't realize it was 3-0. That's yikes.
I wonder why. So let's get into the chat questions. Thank you for your patience.
Yep.
And we'll stick around for a little bit longer today because we started a little bit later. So
yeah, a few minutes, and but we'll get through this. We'll get through it. But if you have any questions, fire them in the chat, and let's have some fun. Oakley dokley. Because I will be focusing on watching the Leafs tonight, because my question might be too long. I'll send it now. Oh, this was before the chat. Okay, or before the show. What were your thoughts on the refereeing at the World Juniors? Do you think, especially when looking at some of the calls against Canada, that the IIHF rulebook is too light? Not saying all of Canada's penalties were because of bad reffing or Canada lost every game because of bad reffing, but do you think that the refs rulebook made some games less fun? So on your last point about making games less fun, no. I thought that the semifinal games and the other quarterfinal games and the gold medal and bronze medal games were all tremendous amounts of fun, and I don't think they were hindered by the refereeing. In terms of Canada, I mean, I get the feeling that once referees sniff something out where they're going, Canada's really pushing the envelope here, they're gonna call stuff. Like, Canada wasn't taking the foot off the gas pedal, right? Like, some of them I think you could look at and go, I don't know about that one. But it almost like didn't really matter that much. There were a lot of ones where you're going, that just was unnecessary. That was not really needed. And speaking of knees, a lot of people talking about that quarterfinal game where there were 2 penalties for that. To me, those were penalties. I don't really understand what the TSN panel was talking about when they were talking about how they didn't think that was a penalty, especially the Andrew Gibson one. I know, yes, you can be mad at Peter Shakora for milking it a little bit, but he's trying to win a game. Canada, if they weren't doing the same thing, then they weren't trying as much. But Peter Shakora, say what you will. I mean, he was nailed a little bit for embellishment, I think, later in the tournament. But at the end of the day, it was still a penalty based on the action that the Canadian players did. That Andrew Gibson one, you can't not call that at that point in the game if you're the Czech Republic, right? Like, if you're the Czechs, you're looking at that and going, well, you called the Cole Baudouin thing earlier, and that was a major. Like, from what I was talking to people about, they were surprised that the Gibson one wasn't a major as well, because he just went straight into that guy, did not change direction, and did not go body to body at all. Like, yes, the Czech guy kind of ducked out of the way, but Gibson just, the lower half stayed stationary. Gibson didn't adjust, and he just leg on leg. They're going to call that. And the other thing, too, is that it's kind of indicative of a bit of the issue, right? Like, on that play, what if Gibson had reached in with a stick check first, right? what if he had not just focused solely on going straight into the guy, but taking an angle on him or sweeping a stick on him and trying to get involved that way? Like, the delay between getting your stick on the puck in that situation potentially and your body making contact with the body is enough time for that player to maybe make a play. So it's why I kind of look at defending a little bit differently than a lot of people, because I looked at that and I went, I mean, penalty or not, it's kind of a penalty, but penalty or not, like, that kind of thing, they're going to get around you doing stuff like that. They're going to find a way to get the puck through you. So the question was about penalty calls. I mean, the vast majority of the other games, I never felt really got devolved into insanity with regards to parades to the penalty box for no reason. The Americans won the whole tournament, and I never thought the Americans were really taking too many liberties. Like, they had big defensemen, but they were much more focused on using their length to get around the ice better, retrieve pucks better, stick check better, keep it simple, but really effective. That was my read of the American defense, even though they were quite big in a lot of spots.
Penalty stuff just seems like excuses for why Canada didn't win.
Yeah.
Just like soft, it's soft excuses. Oh, we didn't win because they called it too rough. Ugh.
It's like, there's a rule book. We're just used to the rule book being used and not used intermittently, right? Like,
because the NHL refereeing's stupid. It's dumb.
It's like people complain about the refereeing in the NHL all the time, but then when the rule book is called internationally, they freak out. And it's like, that's what you want in the NHL, right? Like, you're gonna have guys like, how many penalty minutes in a season would Zdeno Chara have had if they called the rule book? Like 300? Like, if that's what you want, then you gotta want it, and when it happens, be cool with it.
Even
and
if
every
it
other
hurts
team,
you.
every other team found a way to work around it, right? Like, every other team found a way to make it work, and Canada found themselves in the penalty box significantly more than everyone else. And it's just, you got to find it. Like, and as it's not the players either on that. It's maybe a little bit of the players, but that's what the coaching staff is there for. They're going, boys, like, we love the passion, we love the intensity. Just dial it down a little bit. Let's focus on sticks. Let's focus on the puck a little more. Let's focus on moving the puck and hanging on to it.
In the
and
words of Wes
whatever.
McCauley, you can't do that.
Yeah, you can't do that. Yeah. Anyway, it was. I mean, I don't know. I don't think the refereeing was much of a factor, really, at the end of the day. In a bad way, at least. Tilt City for Sweden once again. Yes, I agree. New Year is ass in this country. Yeah, I mean, it's also dark all the time in Sweden, right? So that also sucks, kind of. Bad depth, out-goalied, and coached like amateurs once again. So I can't really speak to the coaching. I thought they played okay. I agree that the goaltending was a bit of a weakness when you went up against guys like Rimpinen and even Feldbergs. I mean, I think Sweden outshot Latvia like 52-14 and almost lost. So that would have been quite something. But anyway, I mean, I think Sweden had a pretty decent team top to bottom. I mean, again, I think if you flip a coin, that team very easily could have won a game here and there that they should have lost. Like, if that overtime goal doesn't go in from Radiainen, that was just a 1 in a million shot. Where does the team go from there, right? They go to a gold medal game if they score an overtime winner, which they had their chances, and things are completely different. So
probably come out with a silver medal.
Yeah, probably, but you never know. And it, it's, I don't know. It sucks, but it does suck for Sweden. Their medal record at this tournament is really unfortunate.
I think they've only won one gold medal in 40
they've won
years.
One. Yeah. They haven't even won that many medals, period. I think it said that like the US, Finland, and the US have won almost every. I mean, Russia not being at this tournament, I think, is still just the biggest sad thing about it. But there's reasons. There are reasons why that is, but it's still sad. But anyway, it's unfortunate for Sweden again, but they'll probably have a decent team next year too.
That'll come in fourth.
You said that, not me.
But it's true. It's true, man. Like, what
I'm crossing my fingers. I'm always hopeful. I'm always optimistic.
Honestly, Sweden's the team I root for usually, just because I like them. I'm serious.
Yeah, it's nice country, nice people, except for Mikael Holm. Nice place.
Yeah, that ref
seems
Mikael
cool.
Holm who screwed.
Yeah,
Canada.
The referee Mikael Holm who screwed Canada. Yeah, well, let's get him, fellas.
Totally Army Home. It's not a common name at all.
Yeah, no. How did you find Logan Hensler played in the tournament? I honestly didn't notice him a whole lot. At least
I didn't notice him either, to
I
be
didn't
fair.
really notice much of him. I don't think he played that much, but I didn't think he was particularly much of a needle mover in that tournament for them. He made some pretty not so ideal plays here and there. It looked like a little bit much for a guy like him, but I don't know. I'm going to take another look at Hensler because the last game I did see of him, he actually played quite well NCAA wise. I like Hensler. Obviously, this tournament doesn't really affect my view on players all that much, especially draft eligibles, because it is a tough level of competition for them. But yeah, I mean, did I expect a ton out of him in this tournament though? No, he wasn't playing a ton. There's not much opportunity for him to do much, but you know, I thought other guys on that team overshadowed him quite a bit. Guys like Fortescue and who was the other one that was good there? Kleber was pretty solid. So yeah, I don't know.
Like
he
the
was
seventh guy on that.
I think so. It seemed like it at least. I didn't really notice much of him. All right. What else do we have here? Yeah, AJ's getting bag skated tomorrow. You're damn right he is.
I got a cough that I haven't recovered from the beginning of the.
Oh,
like my voice was not. I lost my voice basically.
AJ's patient zero for the bird flu this year. That's what he is.
Yeah. I'm the
Human to human
man,
bird flu.
the
He's the bird man. Yeah. How was your Christmas and New Year's? I kind of went over that at the top. It was pretty solid, you know, nice and relaxing, pretty solid, except for putting my family in a ditch, you know, it was fine.
I'm still surprised you didn't tell me about that. Usually you tell me everything. But I find that great that I learned that same time as a stream. Usually I learn stuff about Will well in advance.
I'm not proud of that moment in my life, especially because it was almost the first thing I did in the new year. But we had a laugh about it. We went home. I had a little bit of whiskey before bed. You know, we laughed it off, called it a night. You know, could have been worse. Thank God, you know. Anyway, but in reality, I mean, it is really, my parents have a place up near Ottawa, so it was really nice to get out into the woods for a while and get away from things, you know, for a little bit. It was kind of nice.
From me.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. All right. Matteo Nobert, and Matthew Guard thoughts. So I've seen much more of Nobert. Guard is a guy I'm going to circle back on this month probably. I haven't seen much out of Nobert. I feel like he's playing on a line with Justin Carbonneau quite a bit. I think he's kind of that like smart playmaker type, like that Nathan Quinn type, sort of undersized puck moving center type guy. I have to go back and watch Nobert because it's been a while since I've seen him, and I'll check him out because Thomas, you're usually on the ball a little bit there. But Guard is on the list for this month at some point. I just have a bit of a backlog because I haven't done any tracking since like the 23rd. So forgive me, but going to take a bit of time to work through the backlog.
Quick insert. 5 losses in a row for call up
rip.
Fabian. Hurry up.
Yeah, rip. Thoughts on Benjamin Rautiainen? Thought he was exciting for Finland. I agree. He was exciting. I thought he was a very good case of a very good World Junior player that's having a great time. Skilled, exciting. He scored that overtime winner by being a bit cheeky and clever, which is really fun to watch. He was a guy who was at Leafs development camp this summer, I believe. He's a good player.
Leafs legend. Development
yeah,
camp
Leafs legend Benjamin Rautiainen. Yeah. I mean, I don't know about Rautiainen long term, but definitely an exciting, fun tournament for him. He was in the top half of Finland's players this tournament. I thought definitely played off some of those other guys that he played with really, really well. Yeah, he was good. Tell me something nice about Drew Fortescue. I have nothing else to enjoy as a Rangers fan. Nice. I thought he was good at the World Juniors. Honestly, I thought he was just rock solid. You know. For a big guy like that who can skate like he can, which is pretty good, it could be easy to see a guy like that getting into penalty trouble. It can be easy seeing a guy like that, you know, find himself in the penalty box and a step behind play and all that stuff. But he was good. He was rangy. He was closing gaps really, really well. You know, he's a good example of a player who is super simple but really effective and a really great example of why I value skating and defensemen so much, because it makes your life defensively so much easier when you can defend with your legs.
Absolutely.
Right? Like if you don't have to defend with your upper body and you can defend with your legs, it makes your life so much easier, right? And I think Fortescue is a really good example of that. I can't say there was anything about him where I'm going, holy smokes, this guy's unbelievable. But I mean that in a good way. Like, he just went out 8 minutes, moved the puck well, connected on his passes a lot, had some nice rushes here and there. Just a solid output guy for the Americans this year, which is honestly, with guys like Bouillon and Hudson and Hagens and Leonard and blah, 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 blah. Like, that's all you need.
And Perreault, because you're a Rangers fan.
Yeah, true. Gabe Perreault, can't forget him. Yeah. But lots of stuff was going right for them. And Fortescue was a good one. Do you think this World Junior had a lot of parity? Obviously Latvia, but you had Kazakhstan hanging in with the Slovaks, and I didn't really feel like anybody was dominant. Yeah, I agree. I thought there was a lot of parity in this. I mean, the Latvians were, Linards Feldbergs was kind of what they were. They were Latvia. Like, one thing that was interesting when I gathered some data on the possession numbers in this was Latvia actually was the third best team at getting shot attempts from scoring areas out of anyone in the tournament. In terms of, if they took 10 shots, 3 of them were coming from the scoring areas of the offensive zone. That can't be said about everybody. Canada was 6th, for example. In terms of high danger, like right from the slot, Latvia was 5th, but Canada was 7th. So, so with Latvia, like, when they took their chances, they made them count from good areas more often than not. But I mean, Linards Feldbergs, though, in their own end, like, he was a wizard. Like, I don't know what was going on there, but the fact that that Latvian team has 14 players that can come back next year, and I believe they have like 6 that can come back in 2027 or something like that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, I think 5 or 6 can come back in 2027. Like, that's just silly to me. So yeah, and I mean, they won't have Feldbergs next year, I don't think. I think he's a D+2. Let me double check that. Yeah, he's not coming back next year, unfortunately for them. But I thought it was a really close group. I thought the way I saw sort of the tiers going into the tournament was like Canada won on paper, didn't work out that way. But then US, Sweden, Finland, Czech were all kind of together. And then I felt like Slovakia, Switzerland, Latvia, Germany were all kind of together, and Kazakhstan was there to have some fun. And Kazakhstan pushed their way into that group from time to time as well. They were not an amazing team, but they did get points. They won, they earned points. They gave up 30 goals in the preliminary round, but you can't take away the fact that they earned points. So that's nice. Or a point, I should say. And what a point they earned. Those 2 shorthanded goals to tie that game late, only to lose in overtime, man. Whew, that was an exciting game. But yeah, I think there was a lot of parity, and I don't think that's going to change. I don't think that's going to change. I think in the future, in the next few years, I think Canada, it's going to be really hard for Canada not to have a really good team here. I think the US is going to be a bit stagnant maybe for a little while. Their NTDP this year is okay, and the one next year is okay. But you look at the top prospects game from this past month or 2 ago, the Canadians they just pounded the snot out of the Americans. But like, Latvia is going to stick around. Germany, we'll see. I don't know. The Czechs, I don't think are going anywhere. They're always going to be the Czechs. They've got some good young players coming up as well. Slovakia, I think, has some good young players that can come back, and I think they might do a little better in the future, even though they won't have Dvorsky. Switzerland, I think we'll see what happens with them. I think they might stay about similar. Yeah, they might stay about the same, but I think they are trying to make inroads and trying to take steps with their really young kids, but we'll see. And next year you got Denmark, and I don't think Denmark is going to do particularly well next year.
Go Denmark.
Yeah, go Denmark. Should have been Norway, but they botched it. Oh well.
Sorry,
Rumors.
We love you.
Yeah, sorry, bud. I mean, he knows. He watched every game. He knows. Shout out Lithuania, by the way. Lithuania at their World Junior today beat the Great Britain team 6-1. So shout out Simon. What's his name? Simon Ignatavicius. Simon.
I am both British and Lithuanians, but I am primarily Italian.
Simas Ignatavicius. He's been very good. He's a 2026 eligible. 7 points in 2 games. He scored 4 points today against the British, and 3 points in an 8. Well, he also knows his team stinks. 3 points in an 8-2 win over the Netherlands.
Was Connor Lee playing?
Yes, I believe he was.
Oh, that's why.
I believe he was. Yes, that's why he lost. Anyway, okay. Rumors about Ivar Stenberg freeing himself from Frölunda and going to the NCAA this year. Thoughts on how he will adapt and fit his development. So I'm going to tell you a little bit something under the table here. I am decently sure that he's not going anywhere. Unless like NIL offers on him are like astronomically high, which, you know, maybe they are, things can change. It doesn't seem like that's a real thing. I could be wrong, but that would have it would have changed very, 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 very rapidly, very, very, very recently. And the expectation, I think, is he's going to be on their SHL team next year. So maybe it's like if he doesn't go to the SHL next year and they hold him back, he'll bolt and go to college. I don't know. But as far as I know, he's not. He's sticking around for the SHL. But I've been wrong before. But I asked about that, and it's yeah, not sure.
2 quick things.
Yep.
Reveal your sources, Will. And and who's got the better name, Ivar or Otto?
Otto. I always think of the Simpsons character, you know,
Yeah,
the Otto man. Yeah,
Otto man.
Yeah. I always think
good?
of Otto.
Is that-
Yeah, it was pretty good. Yeah, it was pretty good.
Hey, Bart.
Yeah, Otto. And there's another one, I think. There's Otto, Ivar, and I think there's a younger one coming.
Really?
I think there's a third Stenberg.
Otto Stenberg
yes.
the third. Sounds like
Newt Stenberg.
No.
Yes. Newt Stenberg
That's
is
awesome.
a 15-year-old. Yeah. Anyway, tiny defenseman for Frölunda, I believe. Anyway,
yeah.
thoughts on Chalet, Cotton, and Price's performances. I mean, I thought Chalet was fine. He scored a lot of goals, which is what he does. Really smart player, really crafty, clever, does the thing. Catton, I thought, was one of the best players on Canada. I think he was exactly what Canada needed more of. Really good possession driver, really good playmaker. Didn't really get rewarded on the score sheet much, but I thought he played well. Caden Price, I thought, was okay. I thought he was a decent puck mover. I thought he had some shaky defensive moments that I've seen from him before. But he was fine. He was solid. Will the Habs make the playoffs? Oh boy.
I don't know.
Well,
I don't think so. But I think they'll make a push, and that's great, honestly.
I think we both kind of estimated that there's a chance they would be a bubble team at the end of this season, that they might push but maybe not make it. And I think that that's still reasonable, right? Like, you know, at this rate, assuming this second half of the season points wise goes exactly the same as it did this season, they're going to end with like 83 points maybe, and usually that's not enough to make the playoffs.
But they're 8-2 in their last 10,
yes,
so
they are on a hell of a streak.
I feel like, I don't know if we should factor it up a little bit.
Right.
Okay, let's give them 90 points.
But like 90, right?
90
like even
points.
90 is sometimes not enough. So I think they might push. You know, I never really felt like Montreal was like one of the worst teams in the league.
No, I didn't think so either. I thought they got off to a bad start.
Yeah, and they kind of
a good start against Toronto and then a bad start against the rest.
Yes.
Like,
yeah,
I knew they were better than Buffalo. We called Buffalo being
we called
Buffalo being like the worst team or one of them.
But I think both of us kind of gave Ottawa and Montreal sort of like they could make it. I wouldn't expect it, but I don't think they're going to be brutal again.
A lot more of the benefit of the doubt, I would say. Like think I like. Not that I love Ottawa by any means, because I don't, but like I think their team is solid. Decent enough that they should.
Yeah, it's a solid team. Yeah. They shouldn't be in the basement anymore.
And with Montreal, I feel like this is a really great thing, considering, like, I'm glad we talked about Carrier when he came to the team, because I knew it was going to be a good pickup. I didn't think it'd be this impactful for them, but it's like, this is what you can do
good,
by making small additions. Like, he's not a world beater. Absolutely not a world beater. He's just a solid player on defense. That's what they needed. They didn't have that.
No.
It's not like Seattle where they just trade for and get solid forwards.
Yeah, get everybody. Yeah.
They just get solid. They don't have any like that's the difference. Montreal, they have Cole Caulfield. They have I don't know that I want to put Nick Suzuki up there, but I could.
I mean,
could.
Patrick Laine has been huge for them.
He has been. Kirby Doc's starting to play
Kirby
much
Doc's
better.
starting to get it. Yeah,
I
they're
don't know what
good.
Yuri
Like, they're doing
Slafkovsky's
well.
done, but I imagine he's been all right. Like, I haven't seen.
I honestly haven't seen the Habs in a while, but
I haven't heard a lot. But
this is kind of where I thought they would be. You know, this area of the standings.
I thought a little lower, but
right,
close. Oh, and
somewhere in that range. You know.
I don't think they make the playoffs, but hey, they could.
Yeah, they've scored 11 more goals this year than the Boston Bruins in 3 fewer games.
just don't play the Leaf. Just don't play the Leaf.
Oh, brother.
That's my only request.
Yep. Never again. Okay, what could Oliver Moore have done differently to be a more effective middle six player at the World
He's
Juniors?
perfect.
I thought he was really good, honestly. I mean, I'm biased, obviously, but he just didn't get the points. But
been liked more by the coaching staff and played more.
Well, I mean, what are you going to do? Play him over James Haggins? Probably not.
Well, here's the one thing I will say. I predicted Teddy Stiga from Zeev Buium and Oliver Moore. That was the one thing I got wrong.
Well, that's the holy trifecta, isn't it?
It's my holy trifecta.
Yeah, it is.
My Hebrew boy Zeev, my zippy boy Oliver Moore, and then my tenacious little bastard Teddy Stiga.
Yeah. Little dog boy. Yeah, I mean, Oliver Moore, I thought played pretty well. I mean, he was definitely like, when I saw him in person, I was like, yep, that's Oliver Moore. Yep, he's like, the thing with Moore, I think, is that I think he's pretty darn good as he is. But I do think he did kind of overhandle the puck a little bit, put a little bit too much on his own stick and try to carry the puck a little bit too much. And like a little bit more give and go might have been a little bit better for him, you know, stitch a line together a little bit better, because he's just all speed and all intensity all the time, which is fine. But, and I thought, right. But in terms of like making plays and everything, it was kind of, I wanted like a little bit more urgency out of him, a little bit quicker scanning, a little bit quicker execution. And I think he could have been a more dangerous offensive player. But I mean, at the end of the day, like, I thought he was really good for them. I thought he and Danny Nelson made a really nice sort of combination of sort of lower end of the lineup type players, where Nelson is more of that lower end.
I forgot to ask you about that.
That I think we did get a question about him, but I could be wrong. But like, he was better at that sort of like slow things down, absorb pressure, make a play type guys, get to the net, you know, attack the middle of the ice kind of guy. And Moore was more of that off puck fork check style, you know, puck carrying, push guys on their heels type intense guy up the middle that I thought fit really well. So those two guys kind of complemented each other really nicely. And yeah, I mean, I never really expected Oliver Moore to like be a top 6 center in the NHL, really, but like a top 9 admirable guy you can't live without. You know, I think he was pretty good at doing that.
I think he'll be a top 6 guy. Like,
it's possible.
Line. I think he's a second line center.
Sure. Yeah, I could see that. You know, I think a really, really good top 9 though, I could see that too.
Yep.
Like Chandler Stevenson type guy, you know?
Yeah, well, to me, that's a...
Well, he is now. He's a top 6 guy now.
That's a number 2 center. He was the number.
Yeah.
He, at some points, he played like up on the top, like on the top line with Eichel and Stone. But I think for the most part, they liked Barbashev up there.
Yeah.
But
right.
they definitely used him there.
Mm-hmm.
But I love Oliver Moore.
He was quite good.
I was so mad when Chicago picked him, because I used Seattle's draft picks to take guys, and I really wanted him.
Friggin' Blackhawks.
I got Gavin Brindley, but I audibly went, no, I wanted him, no.
Yep.
So
unfortunate.
You had him ranked at 5th in 2023.
I think so. Yeah.
So like that just goes to show the level of
confidence. I loved him. Yeah, I like him. I think he's great. Okay, Jeff Merrick says he thinks the main difference between Team Canada and the rest of the nations is that Canada plays exclusively junior, while other nations mostly play older. We kind of went into that for sure. I think that's a big Merrick is not a Merrick is a smart guy. He's got his finger on the pulse, and I think that is a big factor. Or at least a factor. I think that's a major factor, because there is a big difference between pro hockey and junior hockey. It just the nature of playing 17-year-olds and 18-year-olds on one day and then going and playing 30-year-olds on another day, It's just there are differences, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and once you get used to the 30-year-olds going back to the 17, 18-year-olds, it's a step down, no matter what, right?
I will
Okay.
also quickly mention I love Jeff Merrick on the sheet now because he's a more unhinged version of Jeff Merrick. This guy
Yeah.
talks about doing drugs on his podcast now. Not, it's
Hey,
hilarious.
it's
Like
it's the way the world should be these days, you know. People
so
love
funny.
honesty, people love being upfront, and people love unhinged stuff these days.
I love him. I
Um,
love him so
yeah,
much. Never change, Jeff.
no, never.
And come on the
Uh,
show, please, or we'll
oh,
we'll
I'd
come
love
on
to
to
have
you.
Jeff Merrick. Jeff Merrick would be awesome.
Stephen
I'll
Ellis, make
DM him.
this happen. Make this
Yeah,
happen for us. We love him.
I met Jeff Merrick once, and we're boys, we're pals, we go way back.
Why isn't he
All
been
right,
on the show?
he probably wouldn't know who I was. I didn't really put on my scouting goggles and kind of just watched freely. Which prospect changed your mind on them in a good or bad way? I don't know if anyone like completely changed my mind on them, but there were players that were better than I thought they would be. And the first one would probably be Danny Nelson. He was better than I thought he would be. And, you know, just in terms of that ability to use his body and size to get into scoring areas more, he did that very, very well. And I wasn't really familiar with that part of his game going in. I thought he was good. Trying to think of other ones. Anton
Ryan Leonard,
Wahlberg
for
had his
me,
moments.
and
Ryan Leonard, I thought was extremely good. I've seen Leonard a lot though over the course of the last few years, and so I'm kind of used to him being like that bulldog, intense, all around guy that like I feel like he's a really good complementary NHLer at the end of the day. Like I think he's a finisher. He's got emotion in his game. He's physical. He brings a lot of good traits to the game. But in terms of just super, super top end, you know, whatever, I don't know if I see that right now, but he was very, very good in this tournament. And yeah, I mean, if he was better than you expected, then awesome.
I just hadn't seen him as much. But I didn't love Ryan Leonard in 2023. I think I now
Sure.
love Ryan Leonard.
Yeah, I mean, his game has grown quite a bit from what I remember when he was that age, for sure. Kazakhstan getting relegated was a lot of fun. I did say that. Lost the hope of gaining any Kazakh viewers now. I mean, look, I have been the biggest Kazakh stan.
Greatest country in the world.
How do you like that? I have been their biggest cheerleader in this country probably for quite a while. I was with them at their under 18s. I was with them this year. I love the threads were beautiful. I got a bone to pick. I got a bone to pick with the World Juniors because when I went to the arena at this Canadian Tire Center, the merch store was exclusively Canada stuff and maybe some IIHF branded stuff. And so I went, you know what? They're advertising that there's a merch stand at the TD Place, which is downtown in Ottawa, where the other arena was. So I made the half-hour pilgrimage from the Canadian Tire Center into the city of Ottawa, and went all the way to TD Place, parked my car. Within 5 minutes, lost my parking ticket. So that sucked. Went into the tent or the convention building, I guess you could say, where they're having this thing. And it was a merch corner. The corner of the room was just merchandise. And it was there was about 8 Canada jerseys. And if you wanted a white or black one, you're out of luck. You got to go somewhere else. I just kind of went, I mean, even if you had like a toque that said Kazakhstan on it with the emblem on it, I would have bought it. You only need like 5 of those. I'd buy 20% of them. So like, you know, and then you go on their website, they don't have anything because all you can do is shop through Hockey Canada. So that's not an option. So, you know,
You're
like
gonna support another country? This is unacceptable.
I am a globalist elitist pig, and I will support anyone who wants to get better at hockey. So Kazakh Hockey Federation, if you're watching, please, I would love to get some gear because I'm a huge fan of any developing hockey nation. Shout out Thailand, shout out UAE, shout out Kazakhstan, shout out
Send us your
Uzbekistan.
jerseys for free.
Send us your stuff, and maybe we'll go to your countries one day.
No.
And
We will hype up your players if you send us your jerseys.
The Jasurbek Rustam Konov Club is here to stay, never going away. Tashkent #1, you know. Anyway, that's my story about my search for non-Canada merch to look at or examine or buy or pick up, and I ended up spending $0. I actually spent $29 because I lost my parking ticket getting out of the parking garage instead of the $1.50 it would have cost me if I hadn't lost my ticket in 5 minutes. So there's that. That was fun. Not driving all the way into Ottawa, driving all the way into Ottawa and having that experience, and then having to drive all the way back out of Ottawa. Oh my God.
And this car had already been in the ditch.
I will also say, for anyone who's not familiar, Ottawa is the weirdest city in terms of geography I think I've ever been to. I mean, Americans might be used to this, but Ottawa, it's like the geographic area of like PEI. Like it's humongous big. And it's so sprawling and so whatever the opposite of
Filled
dense
with
is,
nothing.
sparse. It's so sparse and there's nothing there. And it's crazy driving around there. It's like endless suburbs everywhere, and it's just bizarre. So that was my experience flying around Ottawa for a half a day. Anyway, little sad, but whatever. If you're watching Kazakhstan, I was a huge fan. I was in your end in that relegation game. I was ready to climb over the boards and run around on the ice with you. I was ready to commit crimes in your name, but alas, here we are. I still had fun. Well, I didn't do anything. You can't charge me if I didn't do anything. But if they had won, I would have. I would have. Me and Shakshakbayev, me and what's his name, Shakshakbayev, we're gonna be pals. I knew it. I could feel it. But then they lost, and I had to leave. I figured they wouldn't want to do that with me after a game they lost.
Alrighty, Wilson, you want to rip through these?
Yeah, let's get through these. If you were tasked with creating a new league or program with the only priority of improving Canadian prospect development, what would it look like? I mean, I've been a proponent of a Canadian national junior team that tours around for a long time. If Canada had a national junior team that played those 4 nations, 5 nations tournaments and toured around the CHL, did some USHL stuff, maybe played some pro team exhibition games here and there, I think it would really help. And then when those guys turn 18 or whatever, they go to their CHL programs or they go to the NCAA or whatever. Scott Wheeler was on the show talking about how the CHL is trending younger anyway. So having this sort of under 18 program at that level might be a nice thing to experiment with for a little while. And they maybe play 20 games in the CHL and a bunch of games elsewhere and travel around a little more, but we'll see. I don't know what else you do, because a lot of the issue is structural, right? Like the way AAA hockey works in this country, the way hockey development works in this country, the way that the game is seen by leadership is a bit of an issue. So that's a more complicated problem. But for me, I think it would be, also I think there are just too many teams in the CHL personally, but that's a much more difficult problem to solve.
Playing the parade.
Playing the parade. Canadian Pens fan, thoughts on Emil Pieniemi? I thought he was pretty good. I saw him a few times, and there was a bit more skill and confidence in the offensive zone than I thought. Otherwise, I didn't really notice him, but he did have some really, really nice moments. He was pretty good. Love him, but oh boy, here we go, AJ. This one's good. Love him, but isn't ASP trending towards being the most overrated prospect in the world? People are seriously talking like he's on his way into the Hughes, McCarr, Heiskanen, and Dahlin tier. This is what we're saying. We are not in that camp. I am not in that camp. But if you are not in that camp, it comes off like you hate the guy. Like, to me, I'm trying to think of an NHL player he kind of reminds me of, and I'm drawing a bit of a blank.
That means he's not going to be an NHL player.
Yeah, exactly. That means he's a bust. Yeah, he's a bust. Call it a day. Everybody go home.
Bust.
Yeah, but I don't know. I don't like calling players like the most overrated in the world, but I do think it is unfair to put Axel, Sandin, Pellikka in the group with guys like Quinn Hughes and Cale Makar and Miro Heiskanen and all those guys. I just don't think that's the case.
We get it, Red Wings fans. Your team sucks and you want some hope, but do not cope with this.
Yeah,
very good player. Not gonna say
He'll help, but he might not be the savior.
He's part of the solution, but not the entire.
Yeah. Who was a player that raised their stock of the World Juniors, and why was it Dalibor Dvorsky? I don't think it was Dvorsky. Dvorsky scored 4 points on Kazakhstan. Obviously without him, Slovakia wouldn't be what they are. But again, similar to Sandin Pellikka, He's going down a significant level of competition. He's bigger and stronger than this level of competition. Like, I've been on the record many, many times that Dalibor Dvorsky scoring in junior competition has never been a problem. It's never in doubt. And yeah, he's in the AHL scoring points, but again, I still believe that in the NHL, he's going to need some supporting group around him to sort of put him in the right position to score. But I mean, who raised their stock the most? Honestly, Cole Hudson, maybe. Like, he was way better than I thought he would be, and he can come back next year. I was really blown away with Cole Hudson, honestly, a lot more than I wasn't.
And he's related to Lane, so
and that too. Yes. Yeah.
You know, the Washington Capitals fans are going to think, so we have Lane Hudson 2.0 now.
Right.
Which is not true. Lane Hudson's much better. Sorry, everybody.
You've got, I don't know, who's Cole? Cole Hudson kind of is like, I don't know.
Not even like the Luke Hughes to Quinn Hughes.
Like a Gostis Bear, maybe you get a Gostis Bear, 40-point power play guy, 50-point power play guy, and he's fun.
That's fine.
Yeah, it's fine. Have you seen Lev Katzen in the OHL yet? Yes. I actually have to do a game of his in the next 2 weeks. He's scheduled for the next little while, but I love him. I love him. He's small. He's feisty. He's got a wicked shot on him. He's aggressive. There's lots to like about Lev Katzen, but I've seen a bit of him with Guelph, and he's been good. But I don't have any data gathered on him, and that's going to come in the next couple of weeks. Thoughts on Emil Heinemann thoughts on how Emil Heinemann is playing in the NHL currently. I mean, I was talking to an NHL scout about Heinemann, actually, because he was a fan of his when he was a draft eligible, and I remember talking to him about Heinemann back then. And we both kind of came to the same conclusion. Like, he's a great example of a player who you watch him play as a junior player, and you can see the role for him. He was big, heavy, physical, but not slow. Just get up the ice, buddy, and someone will find you the puck in the offensive zone, grip it and rip it, and he can do that. And so, yeah, he's doing that in the NHL now. He's been pretty good at it. So, yeah, I'm not surprised he's playing a role in the NHL, even if it is a little bit limited, but he's been good. To be honest, a lot of players perform the best in the World Juniors don't become great NHL players. Nick Suzuki was on the fourth line when Ryan Poehling won MVP. That's true. I mean, it's a 7-game tournament if you go to the medal games, right? Like, it's not long. And there's a lot of things that can, a bounce going your way can make you have a hat trick that you shouldn't really have had if you really think about dangerous play. It's just the way that this tournament is, right? Like, this is why I don't really think too much about the draft or changing my opinions on guys that much in this tournament, because, if you pop off really strongly and have a great few games, then great, that's amazing. Good for you, right? Like, that's the way it goes. But in terms of like people taking this as some sort of evidence of drastic differences all of a sudden, I think that's just not really a good strategy.
This tournament's not going to change Will's mind completely on players.
No, but I did bump Victor Eklund. I thought Victor Eklund was excellent, way better than I thought he would be. So I'm sorry to Porter Martone, but he's been supplanted as of today by Victor Eklund, because Victor Eklund was bananas good a lot of the time for Sweden. Thoughts on Jamiro Reber for the World Juniors? I was a little underwhelmed, honestly. I came in kind of hoping that he'd be sort of this more aggressive offensive chasing guy that could really quarterback play and do a lot on his own, but he was kind of deferential to his teammates. He was sticking to the perimeter. It was a lot more of the Reber I remember from last year, where I was a lot more skeptical. Whereas with HV71 this year, he was a little more surgical and precise and aggressive off the puck. And I don't know. I'm not sure what happened there. He was a little bit, he needed to be skating to be effective. So I'm not sure. But at the end of the day, I thought he was okay. But he was definitely not the most impressive player on Sweden. I will say Ludwig Johnson, healthy scratch at the under 18s, became one of their most heavily utilized defensemen at this tournament as the second youngest defenseman on the team. So that made me feel pretty good. Ludwig Johnson also had some really impressive moments in that tournament, and I thought he was pretty good, except for there was one goal where someone scored on him, and it was just a little embarrassing. Someone turned him around a little bit. But other than that, I thought he was pretty darn good. Don't you think Canada could have used some guys with actual size up front? Sick of seeing short kids in energy roles when we could have had big boys like Wood, Greentree, Seneca, and Belchets. Okay, I'm going to stop you. I think it's pretty telling that Matt Wood was on that team last year and not on this team this year. Like those guys, they're just big, right? Like Liam Greentree, I would not say is a physical player. Matt Wood is definitely not a physical player. Beckett Seneca is not a physical player, really.
All skill.
He's all skill.
And a lot of fun.
So I don't, I also just don't think that's what the problem was for Canada. Like, the problem a lot of the time was that they just didn't have any energy, period. Like there was just a lack of energy on the team and as a whole for a lot of these guys. And I don't think, I mean, you could, I think Greentree is a guy that you might have invited to camp. Seneca should have been in camp, but there, I think there might be reasons, but I don't know. I certainly wouldn't have brought Ethan Belchetz. I've seen him many, many times this year, and I definitely did not think he came anywhere close to NHL or World Junior. Yeah, we have seen him in person, but I mean that you're just bringing guys because they're big at that point, and I don't think those are the types of things that would make that much of a difference. Like, and also you could make an argument that those bigger players are going to attract more attention from the referees because if the trend is with Canada that they take undisciplined calls, and you want more big guys being big and doing that thing, the referees are going to keep their eye on it. Like they're gonna do that kind of thing. So I don't know. I don't think that would have fixed much. We kind of answered that question. 3 ways Canadian management blame the players: no practices because they're tired. Coach can't coach them to be disciplined, and they didn't bring the wrong players. I mean, you're right. That's very true. I think that they kind of, again, it's like there's no. It does seem like in Canada, a lot of the time there is a bit of a lack of real or like mentorship from leadership. Like it's very much like it's on the players, right? Like we have our systems, we have this, and take it or leave it.
Out, dummies.
Figure it out. Yeah, figure it out. And it's like that's not what coaching is. Like do you think David Carl was doing that with the American guys? Like no. Your job is to sort of get them motivated and get them to buy in and get them to play hard and get them to, and it just kind of wasn't there. So yes, I think that those are issues that, I mean, it would be bad for Canadian management to go out there and say, we brought the wrong players. Like that's awful to say as well. Like if I were asked that question, I would say we brought the players that we thought were going to do the best that they could. And we thought we deserved better, and you just kind of just take it off the players, but you also say, I did what I thought was the job. Because at the end of the day, I don't think anyone's coming back, so the results are what matter. And I don't think I don't think Hockey Canada is going to be, I think things are going to look quite different next year. There's 2 quarterfinal losses in a row to the same team. Not a good look. So I get the feeling that something's going to change. So you may as well go out by saying, you know what? We did what we thought was the right thing to do. Whatever. Freebird was by far the best goal song and made the golden goal even more epic. It was very good. I will say that. But the Czech one I thought was awesome. I don't remember exactly what it was, but it was great.
Also, the Swedes have the same song every single year, and it's not good.
That's true.
Yeah. Why? Why is that the song? You keep losing. Change it.
Maybe that's the curse. What impressed you with James Haggins this tournament? I liked his motor and at some points, and he kept kind of digging on and kept digging on. I'm not sure what that means, but I liked James Haggins' speed and creativity on the puck. He was moving the puck really well in the offensive zone. I thought he was a very, very important cog in that machine. But they all just worked off of each other really, really well. I thought he was really good. And yeah, like the speed was on display. His finishing ability as well, like just tucking pucks and roofing them in really close quarters. It was all really impressive. Non-World Junior question, if that's okay. If Ryabkin hypothetically tears up the USHL and has no other issues, how much do you think he could rehabilitate his draft stock? I mean, I'm an open book. If he scores 2 points a game in the USHL and is dominant there, and it just was like, I needed to get the heck away from my coaches and start a new life in America or whatever, then so be it. I'm happy to hear that. I don't like it when players like Ryabkin struggle so much as he has. So if it changes the story, then great. Good for him.
We're rooting for him, and it's much he changes his own fate.
Yeah. Yeah. Thoughts on Will Sharp? I've seen Will Sharp a little bit. I like him. There's a lot of skill. He's really dynamic on the back end. I've got a game of him to track this week or next week, so I'll have more on him later.
I see
But he's
the
good.
comment ahead of it. Awesome. Yeah.
Sounds like Hockey Canada needs to do what USA Basketball did after they half-assed their way to a bronze medal in
above it.
2004.
Canada's issue is Dave Cameron. I
Oh,
adjusted
yes.
my family jewels more on this podcast than Cameron did his game plan.
That is
Hell
fair.
yeah, brother.
Yeah, we're with you. I thought Jaeger played well. I've never been a huge fan. Right, yeah, that's we kind of went over that. I feel Bo Akey being there was a waste of time for him and the team. Well, I mean,
Not for him, but
I wouldn't say for him, but I mean, he was a part of the team. You know, I don't know. Would I have put him on the team? Probably not. But I don't like talking like that because I'm not nearly as good at hockey as Bo Akey. I feel kind of awkward being like, I know better. I kept thinking all tournament. Why can't Misa be here? Yeah, Michael Misa is like a slightly less talented Celebrini. I mean, I just think Michael Misa. He would do anything.
Misa, and he's really good.
He would do anything for that team.
And
Was it odd that Canada left home Matthew Wood, who was on the team last year, was one of the better players last year, and is having a better season than last year? I didn't think he was that good last year, honestly. I didn't think he was that good last year, and I'm pretty sure the first few games of his season this year were like hugely productive, and he's been slow ever since. I don't know. I've never been a huge Matt Wood guy. I think that the pace of the game would have been way too much for him. Maybe not way too much, but I feel like it would have limited his offensive output. You know, I don't think he really moves the needle that much on this team, honestly. At least not as much as guys like even a Seneca or Michael Misa or whoever else.
So, Will,
what?
The Leafs game is over.
Mm-hmm.
How badly do you think they got outshot and still won? At least I think they won. It
2-1.
It doesn't say final.
Like 40-20.
17-32 against the Philadelphia Flyers. This team has like fraud moments, but also finds a way to be good. Like they had 2 shots on goal in the first period, which didn't help.
Well, I remember a year where the Toronto Maple Leafs got outshot and outchanced in a bunch of games.
We're not talking about it.
And then they went to the playoffs.
We're not talking about it. I repressed that memory. Grade 7 was a horrible year. I repressed it. Go away. We bought a television. We bought a brand new television that we still have. I repressed that memory. Go away. Stop.
Okay. Anyway, next time. Did this tournament move the needle for Victor Eklund? He feels undervalued for the. Yes, I think he showcased better than I thought he would, and I had him at 5 on my list going in. So yes, he's right up there. Canada doesn't medal in 2 straight years. Trudeau's like, I'm out. Yeah, that must have been it, right? He's just like, oh, you know what? Maybe we should just capitulate and become the 51st state. That's it. We're done. Bye bye. Good luck. Bye. Good luck, babe. And Chapel Roan speak, as they say.
I didn't realize this, but I'm on NHL.com right now. Lane Hudson has more points than Matvei Michkov. That's actually ridiculous.
Maybe I'm not that psychotic after all for not having Michkov locked in as the Calder Trophy candidate guy.
Celebrini, who's missed a fair bit of time,
he's
1 point behind.
Sick. Celebrini has been sick.
1 point behind Matvei Michkov, 2 points behind Lane Hudson, but he's played less games, so
he's sick. That guy's awesome.
Lane Hudson's actually like tied 6th.
Yeah, Lane Hudson's been great
in defenseman points. You know what's crazy? Lane Hudson has as many points as Evan Bouchard. That's awesome. All right. That's Evan Bouchard. Cool. And Adam Fox.
Speaking of Evan Bouchard, Raybro, shout out, member of the channel for 38 straight months. So thank you so much for that. Shout out to Team Djibouti. I agree. Representing your homeland, son. Proud of you. What's your NHL projection of Sam Dickinson? Well, definitely you saw a lot of the spooky side of Sam Dickinson at the World Juniors this year, but I thought he could be a middle pair minutes eater guy. Maybe you put him on the power play, but just a decent all-around defenseman with some real offensive zone pop, with some good puck rushing ability, but like middle pair kind of thing. That's kind of what I felt, but he's always been a little spooky. Thoughts on the next surefire German superstar, Julius Sumpf, 2 times the points of any other teammate. Julius Sumpf was my MVP of the German team this year. He was good. He's a D+2 this year, but honestly, I came into the tournament as well, having seen Caleb Desnoyers a lot and actually doing a game of Caleb Desnoyers this morning. I think a lot of that bus driving, even though without Sumpf, Desnoyers still scored a bunch. Sumpf is driving that bus a lot. He is fast and physical and big and protects the puck really well. And he was commanding the ice a lot for the German team this year. I thought he played really, really well. He's a guy that I don't know if I would draft, but I would not be surprised to see if a team took him. He's big and he's got speed and skill. Really good at the World Juniors this year. As a late round flyer, you put him right in the AHL or send him back to Germany for a year. Maybe there's a depth guy there. I don't know, but I liked him a lot. Ethan Wittenbach thoughts. He's fine. I'm always more drawn to Sam Spear, but Wittenbach is okay. He's skilled and has some nice moments, but I still do need to also check in on him again in the future. Ryabkin's starting to heat up. Yes, cool. Good for him. We'll see what happens. How do Owen Beck and Luca Del Belbaluz compare on their first and second season in the AHL, respectively? I mean, I think Luca Del Belbaluz is a fun, skilled player with good length and a good stride, and all that stuff is fun. I'm still wondering what he looks like in the NHL. I don't know. Owen Beck, I feel like, has always been a pretty safe bet to be like that bottom 6 NHL center. Really smart puck mover, really good passer. Dependable defensively, smart defensively, does a lot of the right things. A guy who I could easily see a coach playing in the NHL. Do you think Cole Hudson will be as good in the NHL as he was in the World Juniors? I don't think so. Oliver Moore reminds me of a really young Brandon Saad. Well, that wouldn't be the end of the world now, would it? Where does one purchase these scouting goggles? Well, they won't be found at the Hockey Canada store, I'll tell you that much. Do you think Topias Hunanen will get drafted? Probably not, but I thought he was also quite good in this tournament. I mean,
he'll be a Penguins camp invite.
Yeah, he'll be a camp invite and do fine. But I mean, I would have. Doesn't really matter for me because I would have already drafted him. But I thought he played quite well, especially as sort of another complimentary guy who helps everyone's lives be easier. Thoughts on Kiwi Harju? Kiwi Harju was fine. I mean, again, like he was better than I thought he would be. But
Will, he was the best 13-year-old in the world. Right.
I mean, he's a decent prospect. He's undersized, but I think he passes the puck really, really well. Runs a power play really well. So he's good. He's a fun player.
Still the best 13-year-old in the world?
Well, he's not 13 anymore, so no.
Oh, that's disappointing.
ASP reminds me of Sergei Zubov. Yeah, I mean, Zubov is... I think Craig Button has said that, and I think there might be something there, but, I mean, Craig Button... his player comparisons are often very optimistic. But Zubov, I mean, maybe that's his ceiling. I'm glad Matt Wood could stay in Minnesota and put up numbers against Mercyhurst. I mean, yeah, like he's going to do that. Yeah, Celebrini is a true cornerstone. I agree. I think he's a really, 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 really... he's been better this year than I thought he would be. He's been really, really good. Thoughts on Thomas Pobozal's performance? Didn't really see enough of Slovakia, honestly. And whenever I've seen Pobozal, I think he's been okay. Didn't really notice him much for the Slovaks this year. But yeah, I don't know. I have to circle back on him. It's been a while. But that's going to be it for tonight. Thank you so much for joining us. This was a good time. It was nice to be back. We'll be back again Thursday afternoon at 2 p.m.
Well, it's very quick. We can answer.
Best Sabres prospect in the tournament, Wahlberg, Hellenius, or Zemer? I probably would go with Hellenius.
Yeah.
But Wahlberg was also really good. I thought Wahlberg was really good. Zemer was good too, but I think he was a bit behind those other two.
That's the cutoff. We're done now.
Yeah,
guys.
Yeah, we're done. Done. Okay, thank you so much. This was a lot of fun. Again, we're brought to you by Fanatics. You can use the affiliate link, and it's in the chat as well, or you can scan the QR code. We get a kickback on anything you buy in the store using that link. We are also brought to you by Puck Preps Hockey, where you can get all your NCAA and CHL needs over at puckpreps.com. And of course, Scouching.ca, where a subscription will get you access to plenty of cool perks and plenty of other interesting prospect data tools and visualizations that we will be rebuilding and putting out publicly in the next few weeks.
Give us money, please.
Give us money, please. Yeah. You'll get plenty of insight into the data that I track on prospects. Yeah. Like everything, hit all the buttons.
Stellar time. I have to get back on that grind.
Exactly. Get on that grind set, and check out Scouching.com.
Coming out tomorrow.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Yes.
Yeah, Zeev Buium video room. So if you liked Zeev Buium at the World Juniors, definitely check the channel tomorrow because it's a doozy.
It's a game from before the World Juniors.
Yes,
but
it is.
We've
had it in our back pocket for a while.
Yes, and Will's gonna start filming more stuff that way too.
Yes.
We're gonna get back game tape soon, guys. We have a Kashawn Aitchison one like that. I haven't done any editing on yet. I'm waiting to get one more interview done so I can upload these every week on Friday instead of stop starting. So once we get a bit of a backlog where I can start firing them out and keep it going weekly, I'm going to start posting them again. So that's the plan. Just updating you guys all on that. Do we want to do a Calder power ranking video for next week?
Couple of weeks, I think. Yeah, next week. So we'll do that.
It won this time?
No.
Well,
I'm pretty sold on Celebrini right now. That guy has been remarkable. So, yeah.
Watch out for that guy on Twitter, Will.
Yeah, that one guy. That one obsessed Matvey Michkov fan.
Yeah.
Oh, boy. Oh, yeah. But before we go, I did see also that Denver without Zeev Buium lost to UNLV. That's pretty good. That was a good time. Anyway, thanks for joining us. This was a lot of fun. We'll see you Thursday afternoon for doing this all over again. And
hope
y'all had a lovely job. Hope you had a lovely
Michkov. He sucks. So
have a lovely remainder of your holidays if you're still doing that. Doing the thing.
Hopefully the outro works. We'll see because I haven't tested it yet. So we're gonna find out.
Alrighty.
Bye. Goalies go.